Good evening, everyone. Welcome to our April 4th, 2023 City Council meeting of West Covina. I am Rosario Diaz, and I am your Centennial Mayor. It is 7 o'clock, and this meeting is now in session. Tonight's invocation will be led by Pastor Mason Akubo from Emmanuel First Lutheran Church, Amazing Love Ministries, and Councilman Wu will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Please rise.
Thank you, Mayor. Let us bow our heads in prayer. Father in heaven, we thank you for your many blessings. Thank you for your Son, Jesus Christ. We thank you for a city and the leaders, the council people here who serve our city. We ask your blessings upon them. Ask that their service to us be a thing of joy. Father, we ask all this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
Everyone, please put your right hand to your heart and face the flag and follow my lead. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Pastor. Assistant City Clerk, roll call, please.
Good evening, Mayor. Councilman Contos.
Here.
Councilman Wu.
Here.
Councilwoman Lopez Viado.
Present.
Mayor Pro Tem Tabatabai.
Present.
Mayor Diaz.
Here. Okay, today we had a closed session that was canceled, so we have nothing to report. And today I'd like to invite Susan Lesniak to the front for a National Donate Life Month 2003. Donate Life America was inspired by the natural world of pond coming to life in the spring. Frogs and toads are a sign of healing and renewal, and water lilies represent hope. The lily pads we see on the surface of a pond are part of a much larger plant rooted below the water. The water lily plant reminds us of the support and collaboration needed for hope to bloom.
Testing.
I have a proclamation here, one legacy, saving lives through organ, eye, and tissue donation. Whereas organ, eye, tissue, marrow, and blood donation are life-giving acts recognized worldwide as expressions of compassion to those in need. Whereas more than 100,000 individuals nationwide and more than 20,000 in California are currently on the National Organ Transplant waiting list. And on average, 17 people die each day while waiting. Whereas the need for donated organs is especially urgent in Hispanic, Latinos, and African American communities. Whereas a single individual's donation of the heart, lungs, liver, kidneys, pancreas, and small intestine can save up to 8 lives. Whereas donation of tissue can save and heal the lives of more than 75 others. Whereas organ donors saved more than 42,000 lives last year, the most ever. Whereas any person can register to be an organ, eye, tissue donor, regardless of age or medical condition. Whereas being a registered donor does not impact the quality of life-saving medical care a person receives in an emergency. Whereas California residents can sign up with the Donate Life California Donor Registry online anytime by visiting www.donatelivecalifornia.org or the Spanish speakers www.donvidacalifornias.org. Whereas California residents can sign up to be an organ, eye, tissue donor when applying for renewing their driver's licenses or ID cards at the California Department of Motor Vehicles. Whereas California residents interested in staying alive through living kidney donations may visit www.livingdonationscalifornia.org. Now, therefore, I, Rosario Diaz, of the City of West Covina, the mayor, on behalf of the entire City Council, do hereby proclaim April 9th, 2003 to April 15, 2003 as as one legacy, saving lives through organ, eye, and tissue donations. We're going to have to fix that for you. So here you go. This is it.
I want to thank you very much, Mayor Diaz, and all the council members. I'll just want to take a couple of minutes to tell you my connection to this organization. Number one, when I was 17, I got my driver's license in New York. My older brother also did, and we became registered donors. And shortly after that, as soon as we turned 18, we became blood donors. So I proudly display my gallon card for New York and then in California after I moved here. American Red Cross doesn't even issue those anymore, so now they're really hot for sale. Okay, number two is that while I am the firstborn American in my family, my parents were immigrants, and much like many of our community, they didn't have money, they didn't have health insurance, and we didn't go to doctors. So year after year, and the wintertime came, I had tonsillitis, I had strep throat, and none of us realized that I needed antibiotics and that this could damage my heart, and I didn't find out so much later. So in 1980, this leads me to number two connection, my brother was killed in a motorcycle accident, and the police notified my parents, and of course we were all grieving, and it was a disaster in our family. But then the next call came from a hospital in upstate New York, and that was about 150 miles from where we lived, and they asked for the donations. My parents immediately said no, knee-jerk reaction. Nobody discussed it, and nobody really knew. At that time in 1980, people did not do the outreach and education that we have now, especially with social media and all the events that we do with town and through hospitals, through DMV, through high schools, etc. So that was a hardship, but fast forward my life, and you go on with life, you do your career. And I became a single mother, I became a career woman, and then lo and behold, I went to the doctors and they said, you know what, something's wrong with your heart. You have cardiomyopathy, and there's no cure. So your future is going to be heart failure, and if you're lucky, you get a transplant. So I started 25 years of doctor visits, hospital visits, tests, medications, trying to stretch it out and praying to God. And he is my pastor, so praying to God, and all my friends cheered up and prayed for me. It didn't matter what religion they came from. It really made a difference. I used the West Covina Fire Department many times at my house for all of our family members who passed away one by one, and for me going to the hospital too. So thank you for the service, and I hope you express that to them too. So then, short story now is that I end up in UCLA waiting for a heart, and luckily after a month I was blessed with a heart. When the doctors came in that night to tell me that the family found a donor that matched me, I just said, where do I sign? And I started praying. Luckily, it's 2.5 years later, and I'm here. And I'm so grateful for everybody that helped me along the way, who prayed for me, who cured me, and especially for my donor and the loss that their family suffered on my behalf. So number 4 comes along after my transplant. After 6 months, I felt better, and I found out what One Legacy does. And it is amazing, the service that the organ procurement organizations do in this country. And I just became involved in it, and I want to do the outreach because this is how I honor my donor. So thank you very much. And I want you to all know that we're having an annual run walk at Azusa Pacific College on April 29th. You're all welcome to attend if you like to jog or run or walk. So we hope to see you there. Thank you.
I also like to say that I had a little reunion here. Susan used to work at the IRS, and she would refer fraud referrals to our criminal division. And so I had the opportunity to work with her a short period of time while I was working. So I just want to thank you. And you know what? I would like to do that run walk. So
Good.
Email me and 29th. I'll try to remember that. Okay, thank you. Okay, now we're going to move on. Let's see what this one looks like. Oh, this one's right. Okay. Next proclamation declaration. It's National Public Safety Telecommunications Week, April 9th through the 15th. So I'd like to invite Mary Rodriguez to come down. Hi, Mary. National Public Safety Telecommunications Week is held annually during the second week of April to honor public safety telecommunicators for their commitment, service, and sacrifice. It was initially started in 1981 by Patricia Anderson of the Contra Costa County Sheriff's Office in California. In 1994, President William J. Clinton signed a presidential proclamation declaring the second week of April as National Public Safety Telecommunications Week. This week is a time to celebrate and thank telecommunications personnel across the nation who serve our communities, citizens, and public safety personnel 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. I just want to thank you. Thank you so much. I know you work so hard, and I really appreciate it. And would you like to say a few words?
Not much of a speaker, but thank you very much for recognizing the West Covina Police and Fire Dispatchers. We appreciate it. They're a bunch of hardworking women, and thank you.
So we have this proclamation for the Telecommunications Week, April 9th to 2003 through April 15, 2023. Emergencies can occur at any time requiring police, fire, emergency, and medical services. And when an emergency occurs, the prompt response of appropriate personnel is critical to the protection of life and property. And the security of our public safety personnel is dependent upon the quality and accuracy of information obtained from citizens who call 911. And communication officers are the first and most critical contact for our citizens with emergency services, and communications officers are a vital link for our police officers, firefighters, and first responders in monitoring their activities by radio, providing them with information and ensuring their safety. And communications officers have contributed substantially to the apprehension of criminals, suppression of fires, and treatment of patients. And communication officers exhibit compassion, understanding, and professionalism while performing their duties. Now, therefore, I, Rosario Diaz, Mayor of City of West Covina, on behalf of the entire City Council, do hereby proclaim April 9th through April 15, 2023 as Telecommunications Week in the City of West Covina. Thank you. Okay, now we're going to move on to oral communications. If anyone would like to address the council, please fill out your yellow speaker card and submit it to the Assistant City Clerk. How many do we have?
We have 9, Mayor.
Okay.
Our first speaker is Francis Fong, followed by Herman, followed by John Shoemaker. Mr. Francis Fong.
Good evening, Mayor, Madam Mayor, council members, city staff, and citizens of West Covina. My name is Francis Fong. I'm a resident of West Covina, and I also represent the City of Hope Blood Donor Center in Duarte. It's a place where courage and kindness begin. We are all touched by cancer in some way. We know a friend that has cancer, a neighbor, a coworker, or someone's closer to you, like an uncle, an aunt, a cousin, or even closer, grandma, grandpa, a brother, a sister, a mother, a father, husband, or wife. And we all feel helpless when we hear about their life-changing diagnosis. But there is something that you can do right now to help. I want to invite everybody to participate in an act of courage and kindness by donating blood on Wednesday, April 19th from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. at the Cortez Senior Center. Please visit idonatebloodforhope.org to register or call 626-218-7171. City of Hope does not sell the blood that we collect. We do not sell it to hospitals. We don't sell our blood to biomedical companies. We don't sell it to academic centers. Every drop that we receive goes directly to our cancer patients. I want to end by giving you 3 reasons why we should all donate blood. Number 1, it's easy. You roll up your sleeve and you sit in a nice, comfortable chair. Number 2, it's a great act of kindness that takes very little effort. And finally, for our patients, if you have an opportunity to come to our campus in Duarte and visit Helford Hospital, if you look up onto the 3rd floor, that is our pediatric floor. And if you're lucky, you'll be able to see a pediatric child wave at you. And in one of those rooms right now is an 8-year-old little boy that just finished chemo and radiation. His body's tired, his body's aching, he's been throwing up, and he's waiting on a blood transfusion, blood that you may have donated. And all he wants to do is go home because he hasn't seen his dog in 2 weeks. Your blood donation makes a huge impact on our patients. You give our patients time to recover, time to fight another day, and time to be with their families. So I hope to see all of you at our blood drive at Cortez Park on April 19th from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. Thank you.
Thank you. Herman, followed by John Shoemaker, followed by R. Robinson.
Infamous Ridley Thomas, your former LA County rep, like Hilda L. Solis that represents the 1st District here. I'm sorry to say, but I'm glad to say, you wreck yourself, you correct yourself. But see, the stunning thing is we have a mayor here who likes censorship, enjoys turning off the mic, and enjoys intimidation against you, the public, the speakers. And why is that? Because I represent justice served. The same way Mitchell Englander fell for the city of Los Angeles, the same way Jose Luis Huizar fell due to corruption, the same way the mayor of West Covina can shortly fall with her conspiracy of conspirers who have ran this city's budget into a shrinking flux of bank stealing of your account, taxpayers. But you don't care, right? You're just taxpayers. You don't care about you. You're just
Address the council, please.
I'm sorry. Did you say something to me, Mayor? Because the other 2 weeks ago, there seemed to be a dispute between particular individuals in here, in which you allowed to go on a filibuster between Ollie versus Mr. Bryan, in which I support Bryan 1,000 plus 1%, because Bryan is a good man. Now, as far as the foolishness and the shenanigans, let me read a part of the 7 counts of bribery and fraud by this politician. It says here, Mr. Ridley Thomas, the jurors found him guilty of 7 conspiracy actions. 1 bribery, the other dishonest service, mail fraud, and 4 counts of honest service with fraud. The same fraud we get here in West Covina each time you turn down the mic and you violate our civil rights, our constitutional right of free speech. You monitor and censor the public. Now, if you dislike what the public has to say, Mommy Mayor, you should leave and come back when you're ready to accept the criticism from the people who voted you in. And wasn't very many. That's why little Bill doesn't come to the meetings anymore, because he threatened Mr. Bryan. And the time when you called us roaches, well, I'm a roach, a long-living cockroach. And I understand Brandenburg versus Ohio, U.S. 395, 444, 1969. But you want to call me a racist just because I'm white-skinned. And my horns tell you the truth, that from one evil person to another, I found out facts. And I stirred up your meetings to invite people to come, to say to you, mayor and council people, what are you doing to our budget that we can't afford to fix our sidewalks and streets? Where's the infrastructure money that you keep raising our taxes on our property that we see our community dwindling into a rat hole like Los Angeles? Yeah, I was out there this morning with Hilda Elsa Lease, Mommy Janet Hahn, Holly Mitchell, and what's that other lady's name, the crude one? I think her name is Horowitz. But don't quote me on that, because just like the transparency of the Tribune, we're finding out that 42 U.S.C. 1983 is not offensive. It's not offensive. Not offensive.
Address the council.
Madam Mayor, control your pets in the crowd. I'm turning around because I'm handsome. I don't need criticism from the crowd. That's the reason why Mike Greenspan was knocked to the ground here over a flag, because you don't interrupt their intervening in my free speech and my 5 minutes of time. But no, you target me and you criticize me because you say I use hate speech. Talk to the people in the crowd. Control your animals. But as far as the other public that are here to hear my important points, let's face it, Mommy. I got you. I got you so mixed up. You're making mistakes with this fine clerk over here. That's the reason why you didn't have those 2 special meetings of closed session, because you're trying to keep a secret way. 42 U.S.C. 1983 lightly. Fuck you!
John Shoemaker, followed by R. Robinson, followed by Tom Vogel.
Centennial Mayor. I actually think you're the mayor of the city Centennial. In any case, bless your heart. Also, we're going to have the farce tonight of talking about the long-range plan of the city. You know, still waiting for what's the cost of the health department. Still waiting for the cost of big league dreams. You know, but I know where that's going to go, because we have one council member who said, we don't fix streets that are really bad because it's more cost effective to fix ones that are in good shape. We wonder why we're in these things. Well, let's get to what I'm here for. It's time for you to go. After last week's display of your husband, William Elliott, and an official function of the city, the intentional threats, intimidation, and language used towards a member of our community in a room full of community members and police officers show a person, in my opinion, needing access to mental health experts, and gives a reason why the mayor must resign. The mayor's husband went off on a person for only what he knows. Why? Worse, it appears, it was the wrong person. When the person asked what he was talking about and said they had no knowledge of the source of his anger, he refused to believe when told, I'm not that person. How can anyone govern within our community feeling safe at public meetings when she attends and her husband's with her? Knowing her husband can go off on anyone at any time for any reason. They cannot. How can anyone approach our elected officials because he is a security guard, was pointing a finger in this person's face. I just wonder when the next time will be that instead of pointing the finger, if he got a CCW, he'd be pointing a gun instead. Many years ago, we had a member of the council leave the dais to verbally assault, almost becoming physical, a member of the community for comments made at a meeting. Does anyone think? The police chief at the time said to me he did not know what to do as he did not want to arrest a city council member during a meeting. Does anyone think this is not the same type of hesitation to arrest the husband of the mayor of our city at a city event in front of the public and other officers? William Elliott is a coward who only goes after those he thinks he can intimidate with his size and mouth. Let us all remember his apology for freezing when our assistant city clerk was assaulted verbally by an all too present speaker in these chambers before a meeting. He did not ask the person to stop, call for help, or get help. He sat by doing nothing, frozen in fear. William Elliott only has the courage to run his mouth and threaten those in appearance who are weaker or when the police are around to protect him. All the other 4 members of this council are guilty of standing by and saying nothing. How can those who demand respect from speakers, believe in equity for people, want us all to work together, and claim success at every opportunity, simply sit by in silence? All 5 of you enable this conduct, and the 5 of you can bring it to an end if any of you have any courage. Thank you.
R. Robinson, followed by Tom Vogel, followed by Jose Amador.
Big news is emerging from the vax cult. Please, council, share this message with Sacramento. There were 138 companies that were involved in manufacturing and distributing the vax. They're all military contractors. The Pentagon and the National Security Agency ran the entire pandemic response. Pfizer and Moderna don't really own those vaccines. They slapped their labels on them, but it was a Pentagon project. This confirms the work of Sasha Latapova and others who showed how the Pentagon's Operation Warp Speed was able to completely circumvent federal health regulations by using what's called in bureau speak an other transaction authority contract, which they use to contract with bioweapons manufacturers to literally produce the bioweapon. This was discovered in Pfizer's motion to dismiss Brooke Jackson's Texas federal case when they attached another contract called an Other Transaction Authority, OTA contract, saying in effect Pfizer had no obligation to conduct valid clinical trials because the only goods and services they were providing to the U.S. government, according to this contract, are a, quote, large-scale manufacturing demonstration for a prototype. The vax was a prototype. Under the terms of the OTA, Pfizer may have had no obligation to conduct a valid clinical trial or to follow any of the regulations that govern clinical trials. In other words, OTA did for the financial contracting side what the EUA did to the drug regulation side for experimental gene therapies. We need to stop experimenting on pregnant women. Recently, it's been discovered that that DNA is contaminating the gene therapy bioweapons, possibly to enhance injury. Too few people recognize the jab bioweapon as poison death shots. The primary tools of a bioweapon arms race being sponsored, organized, and distributed by the Department of Defense. It's an experimental gene therapy, and no one, even MDs, gets informed consent, since the jab's package insert is blank. We're all blindly following orders backed by media propaganda and a sophisticated psyop. In short, the fake clinical trials were a psyop to convince people to get the injections. The documents Brooke Jackson provided contained evidence of falsified data, blind trial failures, and awareness on the part of at least one subcontractor, Ventavia, one executive, that members of the company's staff were falsifying data. She is appealing the judge's motion to dismiss, asking for a higher trial court hearing. Jackson's documents also provided evidence of administrators who had no training or medical certifications, or who provided very little oversight during trials. According to the Epoch Times, the federal government's agreement with Pfizer set as its only condition of payment delivery of a vax that was authorized or approved by the U.S. Drug Administration, FDA. An emergency use authorization for the Pfizer-BioNTech COVID-19 vaccine has not been withdrawn. The federal government's agreement with Pfizer remains valid, according to the judge, Troncalli, who wrote in the opinion, in sum, Ms. Jackson has failed to plead that the government conditioned payment on defendants' certification of compliance with regulatory provisions or clinical trial protocol. The upshot is that there is no liability under the False Claims Act for making or using a false record or statement while the claimant is entitled to payment. Pfizer was entitled to its claims for payment. Therefore, Ms. Jackson had not stated a claim for false record liability. It means Pfizer has a license to commit fraud.
Thank you.
Tom Vogel, followed by Jose Amador, followed by Jerry Patras.
Definitely going to stay on script. Good evening. Thank you for allowing me the time to speak. My name is Tom Vogel, and I am with the Southwest Mountain States Regional Council of Carpenters. I'm here tonight to speak on tax fraud awareness. The prevalence of construction industry tax fraud has reached crisis level and must be stopped. This April, Local 1607 and the Brotherhood of Carpenters are taking part in the National Tax Fraud Days of Action. Tax Fraud Days of Action grew out of the widespread outrage about construction industry tax fraud, a range of practices where employers use criminal practices to walk away from tax responsibilities. These developers and contractors intentionally misclassified workers as independent contractors, pay workers in cash, and exploit vulnerable workers. The result: these businesses have a criminal advantage no law-abiding contractors can compete with. This practice is a business model that is found hand-in-hand with human trafficking and forces the victims to live in an underground economy. You can't rent an apartment or buy a vehicle without proof of income. Our communities are facing a budget shortfall due to lost tax revenues due to rising inflation. It's more important than ever to bring accountability to these criminal contractors. Employers who are stealing from our community is hurting our community. The city of West Covina, we deserve better. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Jose Amador, followed by Jerry Patras, followed by David Schwartz.
Good evening. Staff, city manager, council members, and Madam Mayor. I'm going to leave my business card here. I'm Jose Amador for the Southwest Mountain States Regional Council of Carpenters, Local 721 from Whittier. We represent 67,000 members in the Southwest in 10 different states. But here in this area of the city of West Covina, we have 234 members that live in the city of West Covina, plus their families, their belly buttons, as we call it. Okay? Today, what I really want to speak on, oh, and by the way, I'm also a political deputy for the Southwest, okay? What I want to speak on today is tax fraud. And some people might think it's about cheating on their taxes, but it's more than that. It's crucial than that. Construction industry tax fraud is wage theft. It's workers' compensation fraud, labor trafficking, and does major damages on our working families looking for the American dream. Criminal exploitation of workers by developers and contractors. It's a part of this business model that requires a vulnerable workforce and that has no options other than accept the opportunity for that job, and then denying them health care. And then also having their next generation just jumping on that type of work and that type of industry when they're paying tax fraud, when they're paying cash, being mistreated, not providing health care, workers' comp, and such. And families have no other to say just to be a victim on the same predator. Tax fraud is a human trafficking cost us, our community, $8.4 billion each year. All while developers and contractors, they continue to pocket their cash in their pockets, more for them, benefits for them, not even the city. This April 10th and 18th, the United Brotherhood of Carpenters are taking part of the National Tax Fraud Days of Action, a week-long series of events to raise awareness on construction industry on tax fraud. Tax fraud is costing our community. Tax fraud revenues cheats our communities as much needed revenues as such as fire departments, libraries, schools, healthcare, and road maintenance. We ask that today you guys stand with us and demand accountability and for the criminals, developers, contractors that use tax fraud to exploit workers and leaves the community to pick up the pieces. I ask several questions. I hope that this city council in West Covina has a code of conduct in place, a task force where you guys can check and certify payroll. Do they provide health care on these developers and contractors? And also what's important is, are they paying area standards? I hope that you guys stand with us, not against us. And the residents of West Covina deserve much better. Thank you for your time. Thank you.
Jerry Patras, followed by David Schwartz, followed by Jim Grivich.
Good evening. Jerry Patras, West Covina resident. The staff report on the long-range financial forecast for fiscal years ending 24-28, agenda item 3, has two community workshops listed, and I'm really glad to see that. I think that's really very much needed, and the residents will be very informed. I have three comments or questions. Will these workshops discuss the sportsplex? Will they discuss the health department? And will they discuss the community events, all of which the general fund has been, I shouldn't say all of which, but there has been some general funds in the last years going to some of this stuff. And I think we residents deserve to get some forecasting on that too. Thank you.
Thank you.
David Schwartz, followed by Jim Grivich.
Good evening. Thank you for listening to me. But I have one question. I found this on my door today about a company here to paint our numbers. I want to know if this is the city of West Covina allows this to happen, and the city of West Covina is paying for this, because it shows down here they want a donation of $25, but they're saying you don't have to pay for it, that the city is doing that. So I know you guys can't answer right now, but I'd like to know if this is legitimate or not. I'd like to say that I was a little peeved last time that I only had a chance 3 minutes instead of 5 minutes. That I prepared a speech to come to 5 minutes. Now I understand why you cut it to 3 minutes, because we had a big crowd. And if we let everybody do it, we would have taken another hour and a half. But I think it was very important to what I had to say. I only got into the introduction of my speech when my time was up. And I felt that I may have been able to help Councilman Cantos and Councilwoman Lopez Viado on some issues that I think may have changed their minds before the vote. So I'm hoping that in the future that we stick to our 5 minutes. It's on the cards, it says 5 minutes. It's on the agendas, 5 minutes. We should be allowed to. I prepared my speech for 5 minutes. I didn't have a chance to go into the meat of my speech because of that. I'm not going to get into what I was going to say now because this is kind of a Holy Week, and I think I'll save it for the next time. That tomorrow is the first night of Passover, and then we have Good Friday and Easter on Sunday. So I don't want to spoil anything tonight. I just hope that we keep it as 5 minutes, like it says on the cards and it says on our agenda, and let us take the time that we should be allotted. Thank you.
Thank you.
Jim Grivich.
Recently, I've been not speaking about money. Well, this time we're going to talk about money. You have on your agenda an item called fiscal projections, and I was mystified when I actually looked at the numbers. I think you know I've done numbers all my life, and the numbers don't make any sense in the fiscal projection. There is a little technobabble for you here. There's something called time series linear regression, which basically means you project the future from the past. If there's a trend in the past, you can use that trend to determine what the future will be. Now, what's that have to do with budget projections? Well, if every year your contributions to pensions go up $2 million, then they probably will continue to go up by $2 million every year in the future. Yet this fiscal projection doesn't do that. If every year your medical costs go up 5-10%, then in the future you would expect your medical costs to go up 5-10%. This projection doesn't do that. If every year you give salary increases to your employees, a certain percentage, and you know what that is based on history, then you would think that in the future that would look something like that again. This budget projection doesn't do that. And the reason why I'm talking about those things is because it presents a picture that financially we're okay, but we're not, because those costs will go up by higher rates than are shown here, and there will be a financial problem in the future. And what's really odd about this particular thing, it wasn't that long ago, I think it was maybe 6 months ago, that there was a different document presented to you that did show that there would be some financial problems in the future, mainly due to pensions. And I've talked about pensions quite a few times in front of the council. I'm not going to go over that again. But the city doesn't have financial problems right now, mainly because we had extraordinary revenue in recent times. But that extraordinary revenue is going to go away, and the financial problems are going to come again. And now I'm going to skip to part 2, which was the budget survey results. The residents of this city are very consistent in thinking that what's important is police and infrastructure, mainly streets and graffiti and things like that. And yet, when the councils adopted their budgets in the past, that hasn't really been a priority, those two things. I really think you need to listen to the residents. They're the people that care about what happens to the city. And when they see problems with their streets falling apart or the police not coming, I think you need to listen to that and say, that's what the people want. We should do something about it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Steve Bennett.
Good evening, Council, Mayor Pro Tem. So I got a couple things tonight I'm going to talk about. First, talking on the financial status of the city. One of the things that the state auditor required was a long-range analysis as to each thing that we do, and you've heard a couple people mention it, but we've been promised an analysis for the health department. We've been promised an analysis for the sportsplex. We're actually violating the state auditor's recommendations by not providing those not only to them, but to us. It's a public document, I would think. If you've provided it to them, then we should be able to see it too. And you're looking at the long-range financial plan of the city, and you just heard Jim Grivich, who I believe is one of the most financially minded persons in the city and understands it probably better than even some of you folk. And yet you guys, some of you don't take some of his criticisms well. I'm really curious how the long-range plan of the sportsplex and the health department come into play. I'd actually like to see this council bring those here on a Mother May I for discussion so we can actually see all of that stuff. We've had a lot of talk about Mother May I's. That's a really good one for both of those. Let's have those here. Let's find out where we're at financially, knowing that we've spent at least $1 million. We don't know what it's really went to for the health department. Next topic. I know there's been some discussion about a field next to, or an old house that was torn down next to Cameron Park. Don't know if that's on the agenda. I haven't really scoured the agenda yet, but there's a lot of debris there that needs to be gone if that hasn't been done. I haven't been by there in a few days, but that needs to be cleaned up. I don't know if the city manager remembers or not, but that was bought with general fund money that could have been paid back from a park that was sold. Sunset Field was sold back in the day to Eminent Health or Queen of the Valley. I know that was talk, and he was going to look into if the general fund could be paid back out of that restricted fund. Don't know if he had an answer. It's been several months, so I'd be curious to know if we have that, or maybe even an analysis of the actual restricted fund from the sale of that park. That would be kind of interesting to see where all that money's went and what's left and what's there. I think that would be great to know. And then the last thing I'm going to say, Mr. Shoemaker referred to a public event this week, the Coffee with a Cop, where the mayor's husband verbally attacked a resident thinking that she was someone else. I say she because the fact that she's a she comes into play, that Mr. Elliott, who your husband is no slouch of a man, compared to this lady who's a very respected lady in the city, and basically pointing a finger at her, flipping her off, calling her all kinds of things, asking where her boy was, referring to Brian, thinking she was somebody else, and just making all kinds of innuendos. I wasn't at the event, but I got calls from a lot of people about it. And the fact that your husband has done that, and the fact that when you were approached by that lady, that you explained you can't control your husband, that's probably true. That's probably about the accurate way to put it. You can't control him. I get that. But you probably need to put a better leash on him, because, he reminds me of a chihuahua. Lots of bark, but just a little bitty thing. So the fact that he had the gall to come at a woman says tons about the personality of this person. I don't care about politics. I don't care about your politics. But what I'm telling you is the fact that he came at a woman, there's not a man in this room that would ever do that. That is something you should all be concerned about. That is uncalled for. Thank you.
Mr. G.
Good evening, Councilman, Mayor Pro Tem, and the Councilman. We spent a lot of time and money and effort over the last couple of months by behavior at the ceremony. And I think if we really look at it, we can probably save a lot of time and make it real simple. In this modern era, over the age of 4, probably around 16, is probably the only time you need validation. Only in one place, in one parameter. It's when you're parking in an expensive neighborhood. It's the only time you need validation. So to waste time on validating everybody, let's think about it, the time and effort. How more efficiently we can do for the people of West Covina. I want to thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Mayor, I have no further speaker slips.
Okay. City Manager, can you answer some of the questions asked?
Good evening, Mayor and Council, members of the public. I will try. First, I'd like to thank, as always, the people that took the time to come out to the meeting tonight. I really like this part of the meeting a lot. People have an opportunity to seek redress of their grievances, and I'm going to try and briefly respond to some of the comments that were made here. Mr. Fong, we really appreciate the City of Hope and the Blood Donation Center and the drive being held at our Community Senior Center. I'll put it on my calendar, and thank you for those efforts. We had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 speakers tonight talk briefly about agenda item number 3, which is your long-range financial forecast. This is one of the items that the state auditor had required of us, and I think it's a good story being presented tonight. This is far more than just an audit. An audit, we're going to get a clean audit opinion this year, by the way, with no findings of any kind, thanks to Director Sickham and her staff. But this is a forecast. It's a long-term context that's being provided here that will help guide those annual budget decisions that are going to be made, not only with the coming fiscal year, but the subsequent year. So it's a 5-year look forward. It's a really important tool, financial management, and a way of defining and measuring the city's financial condition. Based on this analysis, and the assumptions are articulated in the report, the city for the next 5 years will be positive in the general fund revenues over expenditures. And that's a major turn of events from where the city was just a few short years ago. Ms. Poitras mentioned the couple budget workshop. I was going to highlight those in the manager's report because we really want people to come to talk about the issues that she raised and other issues that are components of the budget on the expenditure side. The representatives from the Carpenters Union, I did not know about your days of action, and I will be interested to read the code of conduct that you mentioned, and that I could get a better understanding of that. So I'll endeavor to look that up on my own, but if somebody could send it to me, that would be helpful, and I appreciate you all being here tonight, the three of you. Mr. Swartz asked about curb painting. This has come up a couple of times. That company is not affiliated with the city, but they do have a city business license, and they are getting the required encroachment permit. The city is not a financial participant in that, and if someone chooses to make a donation to that curb number on their house, they can do that, but they're not required to do so. And I think that's all I've got this evening. Thank you very much. I don't think I've got any other responses this evening. Thank you.
Thank you. What about the city manager report?
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Again, members of the public, I'll give a brief report tonight. The first item I wanted to highlight was the Easter egg extravaganza that occurred last weekend, and with our partner, the Kiwanis Club. We had a lot of our normal city partners contribute, Athens and Transtech and Envision and our Firefighters Association, and it was really well done. So compliments to our assistant city manager and her whole team. We had north of 900 wristbands at Cortez and more than 800 at Del Norte, and those are wristbands that went to the kids, so we're not counting the Omas and the Opas and the significant others. That's just the kid count. And it was really, really well done. The Easter Bunny did a great job. The fields were looking good. The community groups came out and had booths, as did some of the vendors. The music was good. The DJs did their job. It was just a real bright spot, and I just wanted to say thank you to the team for the work they did to put that on. Next item I wanted to mention was we've got a few businesses that are coming soon to town. Mangosteen is a Vietnamese restaurant coming at the Colony of the Lakes later this week. There's a business called the Delicious Food Corner Express in the South Hills Plaza. They serve Hong Kong-style breakfast, and a lot of their dishes are going to be influenced by Western cuisines. They'll be opening to the public on April the 12th. Chick-fil-A restaurant is opening in Restaurant Row. They're going to have a soft opening on April the 13th, no formal event. And Mochi Nut is a mochi donut shop, also be selling Korean hot dogs, also at the Colony of the Lakes, open in April. And last but certainly not least, Tesla has chosen to open a new car dealership in town. They'll be open this summer. We met with the Tesla people this week. They're involved in a lot of different business lines, and we're working to get in compliance with state law over some automatic permitting requirements that affect their ability to sell these kinds of systems, solar systems, in the community. I was a little surprised by the count. They're expecting this year to sell north of 140 just from this one company in West Covina. So it seems to be catching on pretty rapidly here. Wanted people to save the date for these budget workshops. Ms. Potras mentioned them. We've got one on Wednesday, April 26th here in the council chambers, and one on May the 1st at the Cameron Community Center. Both of those are at 6 o'clock, and we really hope people come to those. I always appreciate those nights and the good community conversation that accompanies those. I wanted to mention a District 1 community listening post. Councilmember Contos did his a few weeks ago, and we had a pretty good turnout. We had some of the familiar faces come, but we also had a whole good group of people who I've never seen before at any city meeting, asking all the usual questions about, speeding on my street, how do I report graffiti? And it was a little surprising to me that people didn't know about our app, but people don't. And so we had a lot of good conversation at that. Councilmember Tabatabai is going to do his next. Councilmember Contos is putting another one on the calendar. We had some questions about the timing of these as political events. We'll cut it off before we get anywhere close to an election. But if any other council member wants to have one, we'd be happy to have the staff there with you as you listen to the community at these outreaches. We had a couple of updates from public services. We're reopening the Palmview Center with an adaptive recreation program. We're really proud of this. We're going to be partnering with the Foundation for Disabled Youth from Mount Sac and the Delhaven Community Center, and be offering at this one facility at Palmview Park adaptive recreation programming for the whole community. And we're going to have a full list of classes and programmings that'll be available. That'll be part of our next edition, the Discover magazine, which will be available online and then in your mailboxes at the end of April. And then secondly, we wanted to announce a free landscape workshop to be held on May the 6th at the Cortez Park and Community Center, 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. It'll cover really important information about how residents can continue to conserve water despite the fact that we may be momentarily out of the drought, but how can we plan for water security in the future? And then lastly, I was just hoping to throw out a save the date for our State of the City. It's in our centennial year, but mark your calendars, if you would, for September 21st. That's all I've got this evening. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. City Manager. Now, we're going to move on to our calendar. Consent calendar. Does anyone want to pull anything? Number 5.
Number 5, please.
Okay. Anyone else?
Madam Mayor, number 3, please.
Okay. So, okay. Does someone want to make a motion to?
Madam Mayor, through the chair, if I may, there's a small correction I'd like to note in your minutes. The minutes reflected that each speaker had 5 minutes at the last council meeting, and as we are aware, that was switched to 3. My error. So, when you approve the minutes, you are approving me to change it from 5 to 3, and that's what the record reflects.
Okay. Do I have a motion to move everything but 5 and 3?
I'll motion.
Second.
I have a motion by Councilwoman Lopez Viado and a second by Councilman Wu to approve the consent calendar with the exception of items number 3 and items number 5. Item number 3 for the viewing public is consideration of long-range financial forecast for fiscal years ending 2024 to 2028. And item number 5 is consideration of extension to the agreement with La Cara, Los Angeles Centers for Alcohol and Drug Abuse. Councilman Contos?
Aye.
Councilman Wu?
Aye.
Councilwoman Lopez Viado?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Tabatabai?
Aye.
Mayor Diaz?
Aye.
Items pass 5-0.
Councilman Contos, would you like to?
Yes, thank you. Mr. City Manager, with regard to the upcoming workshops, well, first of all, I love the workshop concept, and I've seen it. You do these several times already, and it's just been really wonderful to give the public an opportunity to express their views and to just talk things through and say what's important to them. So when it comes to the upcoming workshops, just in answering the residents' questions with regard to different budget items like the sportsplex and the health department as examples, but others like homelessness, etc. Can you describe to the public more about the format of these workshops and the degree of detail that people will be able to see the budget process and how it all works? Just because some people may not be aware of this workshop process within a budget context.
Through the chair, if I may. And while I'm starting to answer, I'm going to ask our director to come forward because she's really the lead on this. But we view these workshops as a way to really hear from the public about every aspect, any aspect of our city budget, and to gain an understanding in terms of where the city is with its finances, revenues and expenditures, and the package of services that's coming forward. So what we're seeking when this item finally comes to you for consideration for adoption, that will have some vertical alignment with community desires, with the recommendations of your professional staff, and that the numbers will be vetted fully. So, Stephanie, would you mind explaining exactly what the agendas will look like on those 2 evenings?
Yes. So there'll be a presentation that will basically be the same presentation that we'll give April 18th when we present the proposed budget to the rest of council. And then after that, it's open to question and answers, and it's mainly just questions from the residents. This is their opportunity to ask any gamut of what they want about whatever is in the 200 or so page document that will be available online. And so we'll go over the process that it took to get there, highlights of the major funds, and then some other items that are notable for changes within the budget for the fiscal year.
And just to finish up with this answer to the question, Councilman, I'd like to say we really like these. When people take the time to come out, it's a more relaxed setting, and they can come and get their question or questions discussed and get maybe the luxury of some time to go into things in a little bit of depth. So I really hope people find the time to come to these.
Thank you. And may I direct a question to the finance director? I just have a follow-up.
Sure.
With regard to what Mr. Grivich said about the accounting practice, I'm not an accounting major. I was a poli-sci major. So if you can describe or address that concern that he had with regard to the methodology for doing the budget projections, just so we can understand it a little bit better.
Yes. So a lot of the assumptions that went in here do take into account our pension obligations. That was one thing that he mentioned. Well, we actually put in the rates from our actuarials that we get from CalPERS in here, which actually projected going down over the forecasted period. So that's why those obligations will go down. We also removed our UAL payments, unfunded obligations, because we have now the bond payments, because in 2020 we sold these revenue bonds, which then replaced our unfunded obligations to CalPERS. So those went away in the forecast. In relation to salaries, he mentioned that, but we have collective bargaining agreements. So we're not going to make assumptions. That part of this is a planning tool so that you could see the capacity that you have for such agreements when they come up for negotiation in 2025, because they are the last year is fiscal year 2024. So therefore we don't project out increases after that because we have not negotiated that with any of our groups. I think that was the majority of his concerns. I know he mentioned like healthcare increases. We do have assumptions for an increase, and those were based on prior year percentages that we have in here. But I'm happy to meet with him one-on-one to go over any of that as well.
Thank you so much. I appreciate the thoroughness as always.
You're welcome.
No further questions.
Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So just to be clear, so that way the community understands. So this community workshop is really going to be focused on the 2023-2024 budget. Right? Correct. So since we've yet to have approval of the health department, the assumption is that there will be no health department as part of the budget presentation?
Right now, it's going to look like it did last year. We'll make placeholders, but again, we haven't gone through with the actual reports or gotten any direction from the state on how we could even proceed with that. So right now, it's just placeholders.
And same for the Sportsplex. So we would get the forecast of 2023, 2024 Sportsplex cost.
Yes, we will have numbers in there for that. Again, as we've gone through another year of operations, we will get closer to having more of a realistic portrayal of what it will look like. But again, we haven't been fully operational yet. The fields are still closed as we speak. So as terms of what the revenue will look like, we have to see what happens when we're fully operational.
Assistant City Manager, did you want to say something?
Through the chair, if I may, just a point of clarification. The fields are open. There's just currently 2 fields that are closed, and they have been open since we reported earlier this month. So we just wanted to make sure that was clear to the council. From time to time, when there is rain, we do have to cancel out the fields. And as you guys are aware, it has been an exceptionally rainy March. So again, just wanted to make that clear for the community as well as the city council. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay. Councilman Wu?
Yeah, my understanding regarding the Sportsplex, this is in, I think, March, early March. I think they already open. They have a opening game, right? Okay, and full of people, and I was shocked. Okay, I said, whoa, I was thinking about this still doing the renovation, but I walk in and they told me they already have 4 field have been complete, and they completed. Again, they already have a game, and that day, 1 weekend. And my understanding, they have a schedule for a lot of games, and gradually build up. Look like they're building up. Okay, and I think we need time to show. Okay, what's the income? So hopefully they can bring it to you. Then you can budget for the future, the expenditures and the income, and hopefully we can have our restaurant running too, and if possible, we bring in the income too. Okay, thank you.
Through the chair, if I may add, once we have full year operational with all the fields running, then we'll have some historical data to actually trend with.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
Move the motion to approve.
Second.
I have a motion by Councilman Wu and a second by Councilman Contos. Councilman Contos?
Aye.
Councilman Wu?
Aye.
Councilwoman Lopez Viado?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Diaz? Mayor Pro Tem Sabatzbai?
Aye.
And I'm reading it right off of my sheet too. Mayor Diaz?
Aye.
My brain is going faster than my mouth. Motion passes 5-0. We had item number 5.
Councilman Wu?
By Councilman Wu.
Thank you, Mayor. Okay, and I know Lakada did a good job last year. Okay, and we're going to renew this. But I hope Lakada can give us a report, since we're going to give you another years of renewal. And how many homeless? I know I got a report, okay, in the back, but I think maybe he can kind of talk to the public. What have you done, and what expectation for this coming year? What you can help us? Okay, couple issue I have is mental health homeless people that refuse to get help, and I got one on the Citra bus stop, and I talked to the officer Sam Lin, and that's a very difficult one. She refused to get help, and so how can we help those people? The nighttime is very cold. Okay, so how can we help them to find shelter? Okay, and to help them to gradually accept, okay, some of the help off the street. Maybe you can come up to speak to us, or somebody want to do.
Mayor, if I may, I'd like to ask our Assistant City Manager to introduce this item. This is an agenda item seeking an extension of a contract, but I'd like for Paulina to give us just a brief introduction.
Okay.
Okay, go ahead.
Thank you.
Okay. Good evening, Mayor and fellow council members. Let me pull up the presentation. So thank you, City Manager Dave. So before you tonight is the extension for the Leucadia contract. They are a licensed certified substance use and behavioral treatment provider. They are currently providing services in West Covina for homeless outreach. The contract is from April last year to April of this year. It's annually for $250,000. With that comes 2 full-time staff members that are dedicated specifically to homeless outreach and housing navigation in West Covina, totaling 80 hours that they spend in our community. And with that comes 8 dedicated beds that they can use to provide those services to individuals in need. They provide a slew of additional services to as part of their case management, from transporting residents or individuals to facilities, to family members' homes, to the DMV to get a driver's license. So a wide range of services that are encompassed in that case management. So the dedicated beds for our locally in Pasadena and for our in East Los Angeles. And like I mentioned, they do provide case management, and I'll let Joshua add to additional or elaborate more on his services, but just wanted to provide a brief overview. These are just some of the services or photos of the Leucadia team helping with our HOPE team. They work very closely with our 2 officers, police officers, with our code enforcement and as well, and as our maintenance team in addressing various issues pertaining to the homeless needs in our community. But like I said, these are photos of them helping with a homeless encampment. Just to elaborate a little bit more, like I mentioned, they do work closely with the 2 HOPE team officers, with city management, and then with other resources within the region to provide services to those individuals depending on what type of service they need. They leverage that from providing them mental health assistance from mental health disorders, substance use disorders, family and children services, education, employment services. So a wide range of services depending on the needs of the individual. Just a brief overview of the accomplishments from when they started in April of last year to this year. They've had first-time encounters, so the first time that they met with an individual in our community, 192, and follow-ups, 757. So they are out there every day following up with those individuals that to make sure that they're aware that they have resources available to them. Services attempted 656 and services declined 692. So as far as case management, they had 446 cases or individuals that they helped navigate through services. They've provided snack packs to 239, provided transportation to individuals, 139, different types of resources, and Joshua will be able to elaborate on that, but 154. They provided assistance with housing navigation to 76 individuals, interim housing linkage to 51 individuals, medical linkage to 17, mental health assistance to 16, job development to 12, and then permanent housing linkage to 3. So those are, and VA Veterans Affairs link or assistance to 2. Our HOPE team has had very positive feedback with working with the Leucadia team. They've built a very good partnership in knowing the individuals that need assistance, what type of assistance, and working collaboratively to get those resources to those individuals. So the HOPE team is very supportive of the Leucadia team. One of the items the items tonight is that funding for the extension of the contract. We are looking at using housing funds from the former redevelopment agency. We are allowed to use up to $250,000 for homeless efforts. We also do get funding from the COG, the San Gabriel Valley Council of Governments. Last year, when the current contract that we have, we did receive approximately $50,000 because we opted to not join the regional program, or a regional program. So we were given $50,000 to be able to be applied towards our current contract. This year, we can opt out to join the regional program, and there would be no out-of-pocket cost to the city. We would be receiving 1 to 2 caseworkers, which would only be once a week. This would be similar to the frequency that we received from Union Station. And the beds, we would not be guaranteed any beds, so that's still being determined. The other option is to opt out and to continue with the contract that we have specifically with Leucadia in the city. We would get approximately $40,000 from the Measure H funding, but that would have to be for additional services, so it wouldn't be able to be applied to an existing contract. As mentioned, the cost of the contract is $250,000. We'll be extending it. So the recommendation that staff is recommending for council is slightly different than what's in the report. We are recommending that the city council authorize the city manager to finalize any and all documents, contracts to continue existing services with Leucadia. So for this same level of services, the same contract amount, and that meets the COG funding requirements. If you have any questions, and Joshua from Leucadia is also here to answer questions.
Welcome, Josh. I've been waiting for you.
Thank you again for having me. I'm always excited to be in your city. So whatever questions you have, Councilman, I'm more than happy to answer them for you.
Okay, and I think the Leucadia did a good job. Okay, great job. Okay, and compared with the previous providers, you are much more effective. But the question, constructive criticism. I remember a year ago when we approved your service. Okay, and I think a couple of people, I forgot the name, but they told us, say, you will see the difference. You will see we're going to remove 50% of a homeless population. So, and I saw it, okay, in the report, you have about 50 people you have to, okay, and help them off the street. So I want to understand if we have 50% off the street, why we still have 112 homeless population. Okay, so how can we help, okay, I know we will always have somebody transient that float into our city, but how can we, this is the first question, how can we, okay, more aggressively to help people off the street and to provide service? Second, okay, with the mental health or drug and alcohol abuse person, they refuse to get help. How can we do anything to help them? And so we can, because, okay, I saw a lady, okay, been always on the Citrus and the Garvey, on the bus stop, sleeping over there, okay, and the nighttime is very cold. So how can we help, okay, and those people to have a better environment? And I know I talked to Officer Sam Lin, okay, he say they've been trying to help this lady with you guys, but she refused to get help. So do we have a method anyway? Okay, and to do this. And number 3 is a little bit more, I know, a lot of questions, a little bit harsh. Okay, that's talking about the law in the Orange County. I think the Irvine, okay, sue the county, okay, and they can, okay, and they want the lawsuit and they can remove the homeless, have them to receive help. So maybe you can answer these 3 questions. Okay, thank you.
So really good questions. I will preface them with, in terms of your first question about asking, the numbers that Paulina had listed with the individuals that we've served and the individuals that we've been able to place into either permanent housing, interim housing, or individuals that we have been able to have accept services for either mental health or substance use disorder, because when someone receives substance use disorder services that we are providing to the individuals experiencing homelessness here in the city of West Covina, they are going into a facility where they're in a bed. So it's not on some sort of outpatient setting. So they are going into a bed and they're housed, while they're in that program pending, whatever the treatment plan looks like. In terms of homelessness, the numbers show that every year the numbers get larger. And so, from getting into sort of policy or income inequality, all of the different things that are out there that sort of describe and explain what homelessness is. I don't have those answers on specifically what in West Covina what the increase would be. But what I will tell you is, you guys, it's regional, and so you have one of your neighboring cities that has a very well-trafficked mental health hospital, and folks are transient. So it's likely you're getting people that are moving through the city, and that's why you're going to continue to see numbers where, yes, we may have helped 50, but there's still going to be other individuals here. I can tell you with your HOPE team with Officer Sam Ling and Joe Mello and Captain Cortina, we have a really good idea of who your core individuals are in the city. Chris and Syria, who are your full-time team, know who they are. The individuals that are more transient in nature, and what I mean by that, the folks that have not been established homeless here, those right now, since we've been here are our priority, because you have a really beautiful city here. And me coming from living in LA, I love your city, and I can understand why it would be appealing to camp out here. We make an effort to try to get those individuals because we don't want them to become part of the folks that you know. So that's an effort. I hope that answers some of it. It's really, the issue of homelessness is complex, and trying to figure out where folks are coming from. Your second question was related to
mental health, refuse to get help.
Yes. So the law is very clear. I need to also say I am not an attorney or policy person. The law is very clear. The courts are very keen on not taking people's civil rights away when it comes to having them conserved. California, the governor and I know the legislature has worked on, I believe we talked about this last time, CARES Court. It's coming. LA County, was put sort of fast-tracked on the process. But what that looks like, it's still sight unseen. There is a lot of infrastructure that needs to be put into place to create the beds where this individual that you're talking about can go. It's not an overnight matter. I would encourage you, my invitation to you is, if you have some time to look at CARES Court, read up a little bit on it. It is for the most severely mentally ill. So think of the person that is standing in front of your local Starbucks that's always talking to themselves, unkept, that is, your person struggling with schizophrenia. It is really geared towards that individual, and the courts are more apt to work with those folks, which is why the CARES Court is very specific on who it can and can't help. To your answer the question about what can we do. So there's an individual right now, off hours right now, I've been back and forth on the phone, who is in your city. She's pregnant, significantly pregnant, and has refused services for months. Well, she needs help right now, and without disclosing too much information about her, we were contacted, and she wants help. And so for the individual who is resistant, and this is her, this might not be your individual, but we continually go and we engage her every single day. And we've been seeing her every week multiple times, and now she's been receptive to help. And so we're in the process of trying to make that happen once we're able to make contact and get her. But that's what it's about. And furthermore, what the city of West Covina is doing, I know I'm biased that I work for my agency, whether it's us or someone else, the consistency that you have someone here and that you have a full-time team of police officers, that's what you're doing. You might not see it now, but I can tell you I've seen the success stories. We placed someone today from your city that we found who is autistic, hadn't been able to feed herself in over 7 days, and was in medical distress, and we were able to connect her through regional center services. Like that's what we're doing, and that's the impact. And this is someone who's not a West Covina regular, so to speak. So it really comes down to consistent, persistent, compassionate outreach, and it's one person at a time. I wish that we could reduce the number by 50%. I don't know. I don't believe it was me that gave you that number. It was someone else. Well, I can't comment on that. I know when I was here, I don't believe I mentioned a 50% reduction, but what I can tell you is it's one person at a time and it's a full court press. So that's how we're doing. And if you don't mind, through the city manager's office or Paulina, if you'd like to send me the information of that individual or pass it along to Sam or Joe Mello, we 100% will go out and see what we can do to contact this individual if we haven't already.
And this is a couple of days ago. I contacted the Captain Covina and Sam Lin right away when I passing through Citrus. So I took the picture, I showed them, and they told me they already know the person. They've been numerous times and tried to help her, and they will contact you. So I think your staff already went to, because it's like a regular. So the number 3 question, I don't know, is my misinformation or this is true? Let Orange County, let Irvine sue the county, they won the lawsuit so they can help the people, even they refuse to get help. So for example, like the pregnant lady, that's not only herself, including the baby, and they need to be helped. Okay, and so that is not, I know it's a civil rights issue, but this is another human being. So how can we help those people? Okay, and for mental health issue, we don't want to see her, freeze to death at nighttime. Okay, so even she refused, but can we do something? Since you have a bed, we can just, help her to at least get through all those nights.
So a really harsh reality of what we do is there are a lot of folks that we know need help. We can't force them to accept help. And I love hearing your passion about this individual, because I would imagine each of the other members and Madam Mayor probably have someone of your own that your constituents reach out to you or that you see. I can't get into sort of answering questions about, legal cases or what other municipalities are doing in terms of taking things to the court. What I will tell you again is that's even more complex. Your city attorney probably, it's complex for them as well. It's a very tricky situation, but it's ever changing. As an agency for us, what I will tell you is, in partnership with, the city manager's office, city attorney's office, depending on what you're, within the law, what we're able to do, we adapt to make sure that we will meet the needs of West Covina. But I can't tell you for sure exactly what the municipality you're referencing and what took place through the courts. Again, the courts are very keen on protecting folks' civil rights, and so that presents a challenge for your police department on what they can and cannot do. So I hope I apologize that it's not more specific.
I know that your hands tied. Okay, so a lot of things you cannot do. You can try your best. Continue to contact the person based on what you say. Repetition. Hopefully, one day they will willing to receive help. That's why you say that basically we cannot force them. To do it. That. Basically,
Madam Mayor, let me look in to see what Irvine did. If they sued the county, see what happened with it.
Would you please?
Yes, and I'll get back.
I think this is very important because for people who refuse to get help, it's going to not only hurt themselves but also and the mental health in St. Dimas and some mental health issue lady homeless just knife a person, walk the dog. And so it's a time bomb for some of we have children play in the park, and then you have a potential issue. So we need to address all this potential issue, not only for themselves, but also to the public. I think that is, the issue. We want to have a safe, community, but at the same time, we know we have all this potential issue, but we provide, hire you guys to try to see what we can do. We have 2 officers and with a team, and we try our best. But if we tied by the law, then nothing we can do, and they will be still roaming on the street. Not only hurt themselves, they're hurting the community, innocent people, children and women. So how can we address maybe? City attorney look into it, But I want to yield my time so all of my council can have a chance to ask questions. Thank you so much, though.
You're welcome.
Councilwoman Lopez Villado.
Thank you. Thank you again for everything you've done. Could be you or city staff. So I know that Measure H funding has been exhausted. What was that amount we received again? Do you have that number? And
Hi. Last year, the current contract we received, I believe it was around 50,000. And this coming year, we will only get up to approximately 40,000. We still don't know the final amount.
so is there a way where we can receive more of that Measure H? I know a lot of our residents put into that, and this goes, I mean, I'd like to use that Measure H to put in for La Cata. Is there any way to increase that amount? Or
We've tried. That's the amount that the COG is designating for our community.
Okay, so
unfortunately,
that's sad. They give us less for a need, and we put in so many. The other for La Cata, is there any partnership that you are currently working with or working on to receive more beds?
So, really good question. Resources are scarce. I can tell you as an agency, we are in the process of trying to do some expansion to the council members. There are programs in the county that are operated through the Department of Mental Health. We have one that is called a crisis residential treatment program, which is like a post 5150 or individual that goes on a hold. I know we are exploring the possibility of being able to open a second one very close to here, based over in Pomona, but it takes time. And I know that our executive director is looking into it because there's definitely a need for it. In terms of bed capacity, we're also in the process of trying to secure additional sites where we can create more beds. But again, we're a nonprofit. Just as resources are scarce with the city of West Covina, for us, it takes time to be able to develop the infrastructure and the licensing to get it. But we are working on it. I couldn't tell you when, but we are working to try to expand bed capacity, specifically because of what we're doing in cities like West Covina to be able to address the issue of homelessness.
Thank you. And then I know when we had those two options, regional or to keep in-house. So currently, I know on the form it said regional, we'll only get 1 to 2 caseworkers, and they only see them once a week. So currently with La Cata, how many caseworkers are out there? And I know you said that you reach out sometimes every single day. Is it just how many caseworkers are reaching out?
So currently, the way the contract is set up for the city is we have 2 full-time employees. They start their day here. Our van is parked at the police department, so they start from 7 a.m. to 3:30. So you're getting 2 full-time employees. One's a male, one's a female. They both come from different backgrounds, so they're able to connect with folks differently. When you look at the other option that Paulina had shown, the more regional aspect, I will tell you, because we also provide services in some of those regional programs, when it says that you would get services for 1 day, currently, the way it works for us is those cities that get service for 1 day, it's not 8 hours because we're regionally located somewhere else. So the teams have to come to work, pick up a vehicle, and then arrive to your city. So on the one option where it talks about, the sort of, once a week, it's more like 6 hours because we have to account for transportation time, lunches, and breaks.
And then I know consistency is the key, and I truly agree with that, especially with some of the homeless at my work. And it's to the point where if you keep bothering them, they get to the point where they say, fine, I'll take the help. Or, you know what, I'm going to go somewhere else where I'm left alone, which, in certain communities, they just want that clearance. So, of course, get the help. The other question is, I know if we approve since Measure 8, it says if approved 3 months, it needs to be funded by general fund. How much would that be? Are we funding for those 3 months?
Let me calculate, but it would be 3 months worth of the contract. So
60, about 60,000, 62,000?
Yes, around 60.
Okay. And then I know for remaining funds, The Successor Housing Agency Fund, how much do we have there to be able, is that like a consistency thing that we can pull every time it comes through?
So the Successor Agency Housing Fund is the housing monies that was left from the former redevelopment agency. I believe we're still receiving some monies into that account or into that fund through the ROPS every year, but it's we can allocate up to $250 annually for homeless services. So that's what this would be meeting.
And then my last question is, I know you have the 2 full-timers that go reach out to them. And within your nonprofit, can the community or those who'd like to volunteer to reach out to the homeless, can they work with your organization and be part of that? And would you have, if I know you're nodding yes, which is a great thing, do you have information for us to share? Or can you go further with that?
So, yes, we would absolutely love and invite individuals to volunteer. If that's something that folks are interested. I mean, there's clearly some legal jostling. We just need to make sure that patient information is protected for individuals that we might do. But that's getting into the weeds of it. But yes, we definitely have volunteers. I know Councilman Contos went along on a ride along with us, and we shared I know he shared some of that information with the city manager's office, so we would extend that invitation to any of you. But yes, if community's interested, Paulina has my information. They can reach out to me. I can also leave my enough cards for each of you. But again, because it's a full court crest, so yes, we're willing, and West Covina knows your folks here.
Perfect. And the reason why I'm asking, because I do remember when we met with One and All, they're already kind of duplicating the work that you are doing, but instead of like in 2 separate, if we could just kind of combine that, and you'll have more full force with your nonprofit, and we can move forward with that. Okay. Thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a couple questions. So, in terms of, I know the legal issue, in terms of percentage of beds to homeless, do you know what the law says for that?
So the Boise case, I if I'm not correct, if I'm correct, it's 60%.
60% of your point in time count,
and specifically with Judge Carter. So I mean, depending on what your point in time count is, it's a significant amount of beds.
Okay. And I guess one of the other questions is, because I know 4 of the beds are out of the San Gabriel Valley. They're in East LA. Has that been an issue for people to accept service? Because I understand that quite a few people don't like to go to like downtown in the Skid Row area, especially if they're from the San Gabriel Valley.
So to be quite frank, it's a difficult sell for anyone to go into a congregate setting. It doesn't necessarily have to do with location. Sometimes it does. Again, I go back to, you've got a beautiful city here. It's a lot nicer to experience homelessness here than it is in Skid Row. It's a lot safer. But that answer, it depends on the individual. It really comes down to not so much geographics as much as, does someone want to live in a congregate setting?
And last question. So currently we have the 2 full-time. Do you have for a city our size with the number of homeless we currently have, is there an ideal number that you would say to do the consistent outreach? Is 2 the right number with our 2 Hope officers? Is there a different model that you think would, thinking future, would work best?
So if you're thinking future, we work with some of your sister cities here in the San Gabriel Valley, and there is one city that is exploring the option of having a PM team that we're looking at having them with them. So it would it would also be a PM nights and weekends included. So you would have us in the evenings and then on Saturdays and Sundays. I personally, again, I know I'm biased because It's my business, but I also care about these folks. I see value in it. Again, it comes down to y'all have limited resources, and it depends on what that's more of a policy decision for the five of you if you're interested in exploring that. But I know Paulina and the city manager's office. We'd love to chat if you're looking at doing something different.
No, thank you. I think you've had a positive impact, like Councilwoman Lopez Viado said, the consistency and having, two people every single day reaching out to folks, and the number of multiple contacts I think is really important. And so, to explore having almost like a 24-hour situation where people are constantly being contacted, I really think is something for us to think about. Thank you.
Councilman Conto.
Josh, it's really good to see you. Our last homeless count was it 112, and then within that 46 unsheltered.
Councilmember, I don't have. I probably should have had that number. I do not have that number handy from the last pit count.
So do we happen to have an idea of when the next homeless count number will be coming through?
We're anticipating, June or July. But if last year is any measure, it could be October. We'll see depending on what that looks like. But I don't have the numbers yet.
Okay, so with regard to the approaches, how many individuals are on our list where they're known to be regular members of the community here who are homeless?
I would say there's probably at least 20.
So there are at least 20. So that means that the rest of those who we see are people who are passing through.
I think that's a fair statement to say.
Okay, so by the program continuing, that would mean that we still have room to go with regard to increasing the number of individuals who accept help because of being able to have them build a relationship with you, which then leads to their receiving services, which means that it could result potentially in the homeless count being even lower because of these actions. Is that right?
I think there's potential for that.
Okay, and so the last question I have is, what are the things that you need from the rest of the community in order to help you build capacity? Is there a possibility to help to create volunteer teams to go out with your two, so that way there'd be 4 as an example? Or are there ways, because I know that there's a resident who has gone with the officers with the Hope team, Sue Agino has gone out to do that, and are there other opportunities for the community to get involved so as to increase La Cata's capacity so that it can actually result in even greater success in getting people to receive the service, accept the services that we're offering?
So clarifying question, when you're saying increased capacity,
right,
are you meaning increasing capacity of like staff that's out in the field, or increasing capacity of like the number of individuals we can take?
Increasing the capacity of our being out in the field to meet with homeless individuals by combining those who are our full-time staff plus the Hope team plus volunteers from the community, because that's already a total of 4. And if we were to have a list of individuals who would be willing to go out with those 4, then that means that creates 4 teams of 2, which would be 8, which would literally be exponential increase in an ability without necessarily costing more, but yet involving the community. Is that something that would be feasible in light of the way that you operate with the community of homeless individuals?
So it would be very unique. It is not something we do. Just sort of listening to it, it sounds like it could have the potential to be somewhat cumbersome. We're definitely open, like the Councilwoman Lopez mentioned about potentially having volunteers. The thing that I would most be concerned with that is that the consistency is volunteers, from my experience, typically don't have enough time to dedicate the type of consistency that we need. I'm open to it, but I also, it's a really good question, Councilman. I think that would probably be something would be more suited for city manager's office and the police department to see what that would look like of incorporating volunteers, but I'm open to it. I know that's vague, but it's a really good question. You
Thank you. So we could follow up on those possibilities later, at least. Okay, thank you.
Anyone else?
Sorry, I got more. Thank you. By the way, East LA is much better than downtown LA Skid Row, just FYI. But anyways, this one for the city, it could be a city attorney question or with you. So technically, with the homeless count, can we technically say, well, the bed should be offered with the homeless count of our West Covina residents or our regulars? Because I know you stated, in which we understand that, nice cities, people are just going to travel and want to stay in. And it's not fair for us to cater and bring in, we want to take care of our residents. We want to take care of our own. Can that be a technicality of stating that, okay, well, the homeless count should be our regulars, our residents here, instead of homeless count comes and we have the neighboring city just jump in our city and now we have to take care of them.
Right. That's something, let me look into that.
Please do.
I think that's possible to do because I think with the homeless, as you have said, they'll go to that and they'll look for help in that area.
And that's not fair for our city because I know our city has, the Social Security office, the medical clinics. We have a lot of things that people will come in and infiltrate or come into, the other local cities and just bypass, and then they just get comfortable and they stay here, and it's not our responsibility.
And I hear you again, not getting into some of the legal stuff with it, but the current system, the way LASA has it set up, is when the count is completed, the night that the pit count is done, regardless of residency status of the individual, if they're here the night of the count, then they are part of your count and they become your quote-unquote West Covina homeless.
But for city attorney, I'd like to look in that technicality, please. Thank you.
Thank you. I have a question. So I noticed that it says here that February of 2022, we had 112. And I'm just wondering why it's taking so long or why we wouldn't get the new count until August.
Question for LASA.
Oh, okay.
Good luck.
Thank you. Yeah, exactly.
That's why we have you now.
Okay, so now you mentioned that you have you provide 8 beds. 8 beds. 8 beds.
Yes.
You provide. Is that they're always available on a weekly basis?
Yeah. So like the individual I was mentioning, the female right now that reached out to us off hours, we're proactively developing a plan to be able to pick her up so she can go into that bed. So it's waiting for her.
I see.
So they're there, basically waiting for the individual that is willing to accept services.
So is this 8 beds a week? I mean, let's say that you fill them 1 week and that's it.
So the way the contract's written is yes, the bed capacity is 8. What I will say, and this is more, if you call me and tell me, Joshua, there's a pregnant lady, she's in the hospital, she wants help, I'm gonna make room to find a place for her. But there's exceptions to the rule, but we do have capacity. So if there's one-offs occasionally, we're able to do it because we're in the business of helping folks, but we do have a capacity as an agency.
I see. Okay. Councilman Wu?
Yeah, and really quick, I just want to follow up. We're talking about volunteer. Before we have you, and I think a couple of years ago, I think 2 years ago, we set up the West Covina Homeless Initiative. We try to get, since we very frustrated with the previous service, okay, and they didn't do too much thing for us. So we try to get churches, and the nonprofit, and we talked to, and I think with that time Mayor Letty Lopez Viado, and we have a meeting with Y&O and the God Pantry, and they share with us regarding and how to help the homeless. They're very consistent. They even have some success story. So possible, since this is a big task, okay, and just have 2 staff and 2 of our officers, okay, maybe we can kind of consolidate with all this nonprofit, okay, and if they're willing to help, based on our meeting, they're willing to help, okay, and they're willing to provide service, especially the carpentry, okay, and they really help couple of the homeless off the street and give them the home environment. So in that way, again, because they come from the love, so it's not come from the job. So in that way, possible they can both combine together. That can help. This is my first suggestion. If that you can open and we can kind of hook it up with different groups. So you're the leader and kind of consolidate with all the resource. And because we don't have a resource. And the second question would be more to the city because we pay a 0.25% of sales tax since 2016 for major H. So this is already $20 million, to the county. So, and now they say we need to have matching fund. Now we have to pay $250,000 for homeless, and the service to you. And why we cannot get any help? We only get $40,000 compared with the $20 million we pay to them. Why we cannot get more so we can provide more service to our homeless population in our area?
So I think really good points. What I will tell you is I think that's why the residents of the city elected the 5 of you, is to be able to, have these serious conversations when it comes to the budgetary issues. It's way outside of my scope of practice. I'm not a numbers guy. I just want to help get someone off the street. But I would imagine your city staff, I would encourage you to chat with them.
So Paulina, can you, request, send regarding what we're doing, we already pay $500,000. When we approve tonight, why we cannot get they say we must have a matching fund. We already have a service. We have a program. Give us some of our tax money, return back to us so we can do more of community service for our homeless.
I apologize. Matching funds?
When we talk to the supervisors, and they say
for various programs.
Yeah, correct.
Okay.
For example, since I joined the COG, they say if we want to get the funding from the county, we must have a matching fund. We must have a program. At that time we don't have a program. Now we have a program, and we have a program. We paying last year $250,000. And this coming year, we approve another $250,000. So why we cannot get some funding back from county? Or maybe city need to send requests and tell them we are our program so we can get some of our tax money back.
So they have switched their statements now. So before they may have indicated matching funds. Now they're saying if we already have a program, a contract, we cannot get funded. We cannot use that $40,000 for an existing contract. So if you guys, if we already are under contract, for example, with Lacada, and then we receive that funding for $40,000, we cannot use that for an existing contract. It could be to add services. So if we wanted to work with Lacada and provide evening or weekend services, we can use that up to $40,000. That $40,000, unfortunately, is not something that staff can. We will try and ask if we can get more, but it's a calculation, a figure that the COG provides to us and tells us, they dictate to us how much funding. I agree with you, Councilwoman Lopez Viado. Our residents pay into that tax, and that's what we receive.
Paulina, I'm not talking about that $40,000. I'm talking about $20 million taxes we pay them for the major H. And we paying right now. We have a program. And we should send a request to see what kind of funding they can give us some money back. That's my point. Can we send a request? That $40,000 is nothing. We need some more. Maybe we can pay them more to get more bed. We maybe can have more people. We can maybe consolidate with all nonprofit. We need funding for all this mental health service. So the point is, we need resource.
You can definitely
Would you please?
Additional funding.
I'm only request we send a request to them. If they say no, nothing we can do. But at least we, have to squeeze a little bit wheel. So hopefully they can, give us some money to help us. Am I right, City Manager? Yeah. So would you please see again? And I think the whole point is that we pay their quarter sales tax in West Covina since 2016, major age. So we need some of the money back to the city or St. Gabriel COG so we can get this, to serve it to our homeless population. And so we can pay you on maybe even more service because it sounds like we need a lot of funding and then we need more bed. And what we can do, if we can get again, resource. And the mental health is a major issue we have right now. And how can we provide mental health, and provide all this homeless population, possibly time bomb, not only for themselves, but also for the community. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Councilwoman Lopez Villado.
Thank you. No, to reiterate, Councilman Wu, I do remember there was that. Well, I know. I don't know why they. Why did they reduce from 50,000 to 40,000? Or they're giving us less and we're giving them more. So I don't understand that concept. Why did they reduce that?
If I can have Kelly McDonald come up and answer that. I don't know that there's a real answer other than that's what the COG has indicated we'll be receiving in lieu of not being part of the regional program.
And then my second thing, what I do recall the matching funds. If we do have a program in place that they will match whatever funding. So for in this situation, we're paying $250. Why don't we pay $125? They match our funds $125, or we pay $250, they match it. We get $500,000. We can even use more programming, more information, and having them help more people. So that's my issue on those two things. Why did they reduce our funds? And two, the matching funds for programs that city is implementing. It's working. It's great. So please.
That's been my argument. To try to get additional funding or more funding. There was a blue ribbon committee established by the county that put together a study that has really pushed regional services and cohorts, and so that's been kind of the focus of the COGS. All the Measure H money is flowing through the COGS, and so it seems that there is there's a push for the regional services. And why they reduced our funding, I don't know exactly. What they did is they set aside an amount of money for those folks, those agencies that were going to opt out of the regional services, and based on your average count from the 2020 and 2022 homeless counts, they arrived at a maximum allocation that you could get. And for West Covina, the maximum allocation is $40,000.
Well, I just figured we shouldn't be penalized for being effective. For branching out and being effective. I don't see the concept. And the purpose is to help people. And this is going to help people. So I really want to know why. Yeah, I know. I understand that there's a lot of internal politics on that, but it's not fair. We're talking about human lives here, one, and then two, we're serving almost the same community because that is from the people that we're acquiring are from the regional areas. They're coming into our cities, so that we are actually, by funding us, we're actually helping them as well, because like I said, you are more effective, efficient, just much better in caliber, and the whole bureaucracy on the whole LASA and all that organization and stuff, it frustrates me. So, one, can you just make sure, request why we're receiving less, especially when we're providing more? That just doesn't make sense. That's why I'm a little frustrated with this whole thing. And then two, if we can get the matching fund situation so that we can cover this organization's costs, so we can help and assist more. So those are the two things that I'd like to see and have the city attorney and you and the public, so we all know why we're getting less for doing more. So it doesn't make sense. So thank you.
Madam Mayor, in that vein, can we ask that the city attorney look into the extent to which other cities feel the same way that we do? For us to have to be taxed $20 million. We have homeless too. And I mean, obviously, and the needs of homeless are important everywhere. But when we put that much money in to supporting the homeless, and yet we can't help our own right here in our community, it's really infuriating. And so if there's a way that, can we ask, I don't know if this is later, but that the city attorney look into the extent to which other cities have this frustration, so possibly we can come together across the county with different cities who feel as we do, so we can figure out a way to take action to try to get more of the tax money that has been taken from our community through Measure H money, but yet hasn't been returned to us to any real sizable degree.
Councilman Wu?
I just want to follow up your question. Okay, since I'm the member of the COG, okay, San Gabriel Valley Council of Government, we talk about this Measure H money many times. Okay, and basically, San Gabriel Valley, 31 city, all the city didn't receive the Measure H money back. And that's why currently I think we recommended you join the Blue Ribbon Homeless, okay, and you are the member now, okay, so you are joining the COG Homeless Committee, okay, and with ENR too. So I think you can talk to the Becky, okay, regarding the chair, regarding how we can, and we are struggling, and the entire COG try to get the funding from the county, and then I think we all know it's a struggle, okay, and try to get the funding back to us, okay, and so just want to share with you, the San Gabriel Valley 31 city all share the same issue, okay, only maybe one or two cities don't have that issue, but most of the city, my understanding in the COG, okay, we have that issue. And regarding, okay, and again, it's not about the $40,000. It's about, and we in the meeting with county, they told us we must have a program, we must have a matching fund, and then they will provide the same thing. So before they always told us we must have a program, we must have a matching fund. Now we have a program, we have a matching fund, but now they say, well, okay, and now look, you have money, so we don't have to give you money. So this doesn't make any sense. Okay, again, I think we should request, okay, and from the city point of view to request, okay, the funding from, since we provide this program, okay, and we want, okay, some funding from our tax money back to us. And I think the city should do this request to county, okay, and at least we have a record that they refuse to give us the money back. At least we have to try. We cannot just say, well, we do this, okay, we just take it. Okay, if you take it, okay, they will continue to walk over us, and we will still continue struggling to get funding to pay you. Okay, and we really want to take care of our homeless issue. Okay, I think everybody all the residents want to take care of this issue because they want to see the park, okay, or the shopping center, okay, all have this human tragedy. So hopefully we can help them. Thank you.
Councilwoman Lopez.
I'm curious, what other cities do you provide services? Lakota. I just want to know how many cities. Oh, can you speak to the mic so the residents can hear you?
We're part of the regional efforts through the COG, so it's roughly 20 plus cities. But your city is one of 6 currently that we provide basically full-time services to. And you know, just I know we've been chatting a lot, but I just really have to point out the fact that you know, the city is putting its money where its mouth is in terms of working with this issue, and you're doing it not just with us, but the resources that, you know, Paulina and Kelly and all the meetings that I have with them, but also your 2 full-time officers. I had to put that in there because you guys, you know, we're really happy to be here. Your police department, that's what makes this successful, is what you guys, you know, the passion and the efforts that you're doing, and your officers are really instrumental in what we're doing.
No, I completely agree. So, Paulina, quick question. Since technically he operates regional wide, I mean, region funds for the whole funding? Because I know Lakota does operate, you know, 20 regionally, right? So why are we excluded because we just branched out and have our own? Is that why? I mean, technically it's still region.
So the COG is doing a regional, providing regional services, and that's the one that we could opt in for, and that's the one that we would receive 1 to 2 caseworkers once a week for an 8-hour shift, which is diminished to 6 hours. because of transportation and breaks and things like that. So we do have that option to join in the regional effort.
So can we do two? Have both options, join in the regional effort as well as having our own?
We could, then that 40, we would not receive that 40,000 in lieu of, because we would be joining that effort. So then we would have our contract with Lacada that we would get them 5 days a week, 2 caseworkers a day, for 80 hours a week. And then on top of that, we would be getting 1 to 2 caseworkers once a week. And as I think, as Joshua mentioned, the thing that works and it makes ours so successful is that we have the consistency of the same 2 staff members building those relationships with those individuals in the community. With previous efforts that we've used with other organizations, where it was once a week.
I do remember, but what I'm saying is to do both, to have the regional, have that, so as if like just more of a powerhouse of doing all the efforts needed to help the homeless. So be part of the regional as well as having our own. So keeping what we have in place as well as a regional. Would that help us in funding any of these things? Because we're doing both. We're still going to keep this and we're going to do that.
That's something that the council can decide if they want to do, to go in that direction. Or what we could do is take that 40,000 and add to scope of services with our contract with Lacada directly.
It's just the 40,000 is nothing. I mean, that's like nothing. We're paying 250,000, and this does not include all the service like that our Hope team provides, the city provides. I mean, this is just 250,000 to Lacada. So that is 40,000. Then plus they reduced it. So I mean, I'd like to see full force, including both. And then I'd like to revisit the matching funds, because I do remember sitting here seeing that we needed, they would provide matching funds if we delivered or did services, so which we have as a city, but I don't see all that like when it comes to it, and it just seems like, again, we're being penalized. So I'd like to see those options. I'd love to keep you, obviously, that is priority. We are keeping Lacada. But if we can expand the efforts of also going regional while providing double the service, that we need this to help our homeless. So yes.
Pro Tem?
Thank you. I'm not sure if that was a motion, but I think that's a wonderful idea to be able to join the regional. That way, too, now they can't say that we aren't part of the regional approach. We're still having Lacada 5 days a week with our 2, plus getting this extra 1 to 2 on another day. Plus, we are now part of the regional, which is what they're trying to motivate us, I guess, to do. Mm-hmm. And so, now we can really make the case for that Measure H fund. So if that is a possibility, then I think that is definitely the way to go. Thank you.
Councilman Wu?
Okay, so basically, again, go back to the original Measure H. Okay, when we vote to approve Measure H, okay, they say, okay, if we approve this, okay, county will take care of homeless issue. So it looks like currently nothing happened at all. So now we have to jump off different kind of hood, try to get petty cash. So okay, so that is really, and we provide $20 million already with this 7, 8 years. So meaning we're still fighting for $40,000. So it doesn't make any sense. So I think we do everything, and especially, okay, I think, Councilman Cantos already joined the COG Homeless Committee. So since you are very vocal, so maybe you can help us work with COG, okay, and try to see how can we work together as a regional. At the same time, we get our local, okay, and still doing your funding that we have to come in from our own pocket. So, but it's not fair. We pay taxes already. We should have some funding, okay, back to us, so we can maybe extend it even more. Not 5 days, maybe 7 days, okay, maybe longer hours. So with a different staff. So because homeless people exist at weekend too, so we need more people. So, and it meaning what? We need more funding. Okay, and this funding is in the county, and they now transferred to us. So how can we fight for that funding? And by the way, don't forget, San Gabriel Valley has 31 cities. Everybody want funding. Everybody's struggling for that. Okay, so I can see the issue we have. Okay, and they only give us like $1 million for 31 cities to share. It's almost nothing. So hopefully we can send enough of voice to them, and they can give us some of the funding back and to help to provide more service. Rather than 5 days, 6 hours a day, we can maybe 10 hours with a different shift. Okay, and the 7 day, and then we approach the people, try to help them.
Right.
Okay, because you have right now you have a Gold Line, Metrolink. Okay, come from downtown, from your area, coming from our area. So
I'm not promoting our area to come here. Don't
no,
believe me.
so we need to do it. But I want to move the motion to approve for continue to renew your contract, and then we add to look into and regional and our local to see we can get more funding or get more service for our homeless and the situation. Okay, that's my motion.
I have one more question, sorry.
Councilwoman Lopez?
Thank you, Mayor. So, do you visit the homeless at nights as well? Or how late do you go in contact? Because I know personally when I'm out there, I was meeting with one of the person on the streets at the bus stop. I know my husband said, what am I doing out past 10, 11 o'clock? They all started coming out. And I'm meeting more and more people. So, I wanted to know, do you reach out at night, or what's the latest?
So the way it's set up right now with the Hope team is it's 7 to 3:30, and it's aligned with the officer's schedule in the police department. And so in terms of, is the question more, can you go out at night?
Well,
because we can. It's just a matter of the logistics of what that looks like with the Hope team. But in one city right now, we're out as late as 11 p.m.
Okay, just good to know. I was curious on that. Thank you. Okay, I'll second that.
Does the Catholic churches still house them? There's like 3 of them around here that they're housing them, right?
Sir, we're going to continue to move on with this. We can't. We're working on it. Yes.
But all I could say is that for any residents, can they reach out? Well, please by all means send an email to us. We'll forward it to the city. Any of those, as well as we'll definitely contact you and maybe any of the residents who has recommendations on extra locations in bed. We can reach out to you to see if you can partner. Because I do remember at the 100th festival, I met with another group of church, and they did say they had extra housing. And I said, I'd love to partner up with you. I just need to reach out to see if their contact. I gave them my information. They just haven't emailed me or called me back. And then they did said they just needed extra funding to build more rooms, which I know we can discuss that another time. But for any residents, if they have ideas or anything, by all means, we'd love that. Send it over. We'll forward it to the city staff and then reach out to you as well.
Madam Mayor, real quick. Just a quick question with regard to Josh. If there are other entities like faith communities who do have beds, do you add that to the count of partners who you reach out to send people there for assistance, or how does that work with regard to other entities that are in town that have beds available, like the faith communities and others?
So, really good question, Councilman. If there are faith-based organizations that are willing to provide interim housing for individuals, I'm here for it. Like if they're willing to provide a bed, we'd be more than happy to work with them. As of right now, we're not familiar out here, at least, with anyone that is willing to open up beds, to house folks on an interim basis. But again, if there's a specific church that is willing to work with us in a partnership, I know we would be more than open to having that conversation.
Good. So, Madam Mayor, I call the question. I'm sorry. For the vote, please. I call the question for the vote to be taken.
Okay.
Yeah.
In light of the motion in the second.
I
I second.
And if I could clarify the motion was to go with Leucadia and look into regional assistance.
To, the regional program administered by the COG, right? Yeah. Yeah.
And to also make sure that we get that, since it's all in regards to funding, the matching.
I did write down your questions.
Perfect. Thank you.
So I have a motion by Councilman Wu, a second by Councilwoman Lopez Viado for item number 5, consideration of extension to the agreement with Los Angeles Centers for Alcohol and Drug Abuse, Leucadia Homeless Services. Councilman Contos?
Aye.
Councilman Wu?
Aye.
Councilwoman Lopez Viado?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Tabatabai?
Aye.
Mayor Diaz?
Aye. Thank you, Josh.
Thank you.
You too.
Item passes 5-0.
Okay, let's move on to our public hearing. This matter set for public hearing consists of urgency ordinance number 2514, an urgency ordinance adopting an extension to a moratorium pertaining to drive-through food establishments. Will the city clerk verify the proper legal notice has been given?
Proper legal notice was given, Mayor.
Okay, so at this time, I will open the public hearing on the urgency ordinance. Will there be a presentation?
Mayor, we do have a presentation tonight. Our planning manager, Joanne Burns, is prepared to proceed with that.
Okay, thank you.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor, members of the City Council. The item that's being considered is regarding the extension for the moratorium. A moratorium is designed to halt the development, the temporary development of something that is typically allowed by the city's code. In this case, the city is currently working on a development code update. As far as the moratorium is concerned, as a word of warning, a moratorium may have a chilling effect on the free market private investments. A bit of a background: the item was first brought to the Planning Commission on January 24th. The Planning Commission recommended a 4-1 vote to recommend that the City Council adopt a moratorium prohibiting drive-throughs, restaurants near the Interstate 10 freeway. And they provided specific parameters on the streets that are going to be included within the moratorium. On February 21st, the City Council voted to adopt the moratorium. The moratorium is 45 days. It's due to expire on April 7th of this year. And the city included the required 10-day reporting on the March 21st City Council meeting consent calendar for public information. By state law, the city is required to consider an extension 10 days prior to the April 7th extension, and that is what we are doing today. A few statistics up on the slide. The existing code requires a conditional use permit for drive-through restaurants. As part of the conditional use permit, it's not codified, but we do require that staff does require that the applicant submit a drive-through queuing analysis, which estimates the projection for vehicle stacking. If there is not enough queuing that's shown on the queuing analysis, the applicant does still have the right to proceed with the CUP application processing without staff support. Please note that the drive-through queuing analysis only provides the estimated vehicle stacking that will occur based on the business, and there's no way it would be an exact projection. The city currently has 28 drive-throughs, and 12 of these drive-throughs are within 1,000 feet from the Interstate 10 freeway. Here on the screen is the drive-through survey that was taken that was obtained from cities around West Covina. West Covina currently has the most listed drive-through restaurants amongst West Alhambra, Arcadia, Baldwin Park, Covina, Monrovia, and Pasadena at 28 drive-throughs. However, the city is the third when compared to the area per square miles. The cities listed, Claremont, La Cañada, Flint Ridge, San Marino, Sierra Madre, Burbank, Glendale, all do not allow drive-throughs within their city limits. Burbank and Glendale are currently under moratorium at the moment. Here are the estimated vehicle queuing. This data was provided by the city traffic engineer and was obtained utilizing drive-through queuing analysis submitted by individual restaurants in other cities. Again, please note that this doesn't necessarily mean that the vehicle queuing would not go beyond the figures listed. This was the average of the maximum queuing during the times the surveys were taken for each particular location. So Starbucks at 12 to 15, Chick-fil-A 20 to 25, and so forth. Panda Express has the lowest vehicle queuing requirement, and Dutch Brothers Coffee has the highest at 25 to 27. They are. The table includes regulations of drive-throughs in other cities. As far as queuing length is concerned, Baldwin Pomona has a minimum of 100 feet length requirements for drive-through queuing. In Long Beach allows for a minimum of four car lanes. Alhambra, 100 feet from the center pickup line to the drive-through entry point. And as far as minimum lot sizes are concerned, Baldwin Park is the only one with a 20,000 square foot minimum lot size, with the exception of Pico Rivera, which differentiates the minimum lot size for corner lots and interior lots at 12,000 and 10,000 square feet, respectively. There are also additional requirements. Most of the requirements deals with screening and landscaping. However, the cities of Long Beach and Pasadena has requirements regarding radius. They do not allow drive-throughs within 500-foot radius from schools, parks, and other drive-throughs. Long Beach also does not allow drive-throughs in certain zones. The following items are alternative considerations that the City Council can ask staff to consider, and also staff is asking the City Council for direction for to prohibit. One is to prohibit use. Staff is asking the City Council if there is a desire to completely prohibit the use of drive-throughs within drive-through restaurants within the city, or limit it based on the proximity to other drive-throughs. The proximity to other drive-throughs is similar to Pasadena and Long Beach, where they require it to be 500 feet from other drive-throughs and other uses, or to limit use based on zoning. For example, the City Council may ask staff to not allow to proceed with a development code update to not allow drive-throughs within the downtown plan. A conditional use permit. The city currently requires a conditional use permit. Staff can modify the findings so that approving drive-throughs wouldn't be as easy. And also, we can also work on beefing up the standard conditions of approval. Revisions of the development standards. Again, queuing, we can include queuing capacity requirements. This can range from a minimum vehicle queuing based on the length of the queuing, or or a set number. Site design standards. This can include not a requirement to not allow queuing to be blocking any drive aisles or parking spaces. Minimum lot size. This is similar to Baldwin Parks, which Baldwin Park requires a minimum of 20,000 square feet solely for drive-through restaurants in their parking area. With this, it is recommended that City Council conduct the public hearing, then consider the urgency ordinance. In order to approve the urgency ordinance, the council must get a 4/5 votes. With this, staff is available to answer any questions.
Councilman Wu?
Okay, so thank you, Mayor. So last time is 45 days. So this time will be how long? 10 months?
10 months, 15 days.
10 months, 15 days. I remember this item brought up by our consultant, okay, for the code update. And I was in the subcommittee with the previous mayors, Dario Cassiano, okay, and he brought up the reason, the issue is, okay, look like West Covina has, I even don't know, okay, we have that many of drive-through, okay, we become the possible number one drive-through, and I look around, and I think based on what they say, is a lot of residents, they do the community outreach, a lot of residents, okay, respond to them because the city has way too many drive-through. So that's why I look into it, and I find out it's kind of true that the drive-through, for example, a lot of our sit-in restaurant have been converted into the drive-through fast food restaurant. So are we going to continue to become a fast food, okay, and the drive-through city, or should we attract more of a sit-in restaurant coming to our city? So that is one issue. Elephant Bar, okay, I love the restaurant, and they closed down and become a Chick-fil-A drive-through. Okay, and Tony, okay, the Covina, okay, the Italian restaurant at Eastland, and be converted into the Korean barbecue, and then become okay, Jollibee drive-through. And the drive-through, I think that's very dangerous because it's a quota set. So I don't know even, okay, would be a problem in the future. And then Hooter and become a drive-through for another Chick-fil-A. And that's just outside of intersection of 10 freeway. And I know quite a lot of potentially all these 10 freeway, okay, a lot of sitting restaurant possible, they want to convert into a drive-through. So is that what we want? So I think we should, my suggestion is 10 months. Okay, this is only 10 months to look into, okay, and we can stop this thing at least to look into the number. The drive-through is not a bad thing, but if when you have so many drive-through, you see the traffic jam, okay, you see the long line, especially the popular one like In-N-Out and Chick-fil-A, okay, and the line is pretty problematic. So I'm thinking about we should, okay, continue to have a 10 months, okay, temporarily, okay, to see, and hopefully we can attract more of a sit-in restaurant come to our city. And I think that will make our city a little bit more attractive rather than all the drive-through. And my understanding last time you calculated Chick-fil-A is what, 1,300 to 1,500 a day drive-through. So that is a lot of traffic idling, okay, on the driveway. And then you have In-N-Out Burger, and they ooze out on the street. Every time I have to try to squeeze, okay, so I don't hit the long line waiting to pick up their food. So that is an issue. I think, okay, we should continue to moratorium for 10 months, okay, and to see how, okay, we can at least digest all this traffic. And think about we have all these 400 homes built into, okay, to our city. And look at the traffic. Okay, and now we more of the people want to come in our city and they want to do drive-through. okay, will that create a more traffic jam, a more traffic accident to our city? So I think that is an issue, safety issue, pollution issue, okay, and what kind of city we want to have. Okay, we want to attract more of sit-in so people can enjoy and go over there. If they want to fill, they can pick it up, park the car over there, order, pick up the car, or make a phone call, okay, and they go to pick up their fuel while they're idling in your car. So anyway, I think my suggestion is, okay, I think we should follow the consultant's suggestion since we are the number one, and this is not a good number, okay, compared with all other city. Okay, this is my suggestion.
Any other council members?
Madam Mayor,
Councilman.
a question for Joanne. You talked about free market considerations. When breaking that down, there are different types of businesses that are attracted. When staff had indicated that this affects the free market, is that within the fast food context, a general business context, or what is the context of that conclusion? And the reason why I ask is because, let's say, for example, within another part of the free market, there could be nice restaurants that could be attracted. But then if we get, I'm just curious about with regard to the free market argument, and especially assuming that was made at the commission level, what was the commission's rationale for recommending the moratorium in light of the free market discussion that you described, as well as environmental considerations where we have to worry about the environment with all the cars being idle. If you could elaborate on or answer that, please.
As far as the free market comment, that would be in general in regards to the moratorium itself. However, in this context, it would include it would be more specific to the fast food industry. Staff has received several calls from businesses that want to open a fast food restaurant within the city. Since the moratorium was established almost about a month ago. And so we had told them that they are not able to open the business in this city due to the moratorium. And some of those locations that they looked into opening are currently either vacant, undeveloped property that the city has been having trouble in developing. And some of those are also existing vacant tenant spaces.
Okay, and so what has been the analysis of resident comments with regard to the drive-through and traffic and the traffic extending into the street and such? What have residents indicated to be their concerns?
During the development code update, public meetings, and also public staff receiving public comments through the website that was set up for the development code update. Some of those comments that we did receive were in regards of the city having too many drive-throughs and the issue with vehicle queuing extending into the street.
Okay, so just to clarify, the free market issue is more within the context of fast food, the fast food sector, but then that doesn't necessarily have an impact on other aspects with regard to other businesses that could potentially choose to invest here.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Councilwoman Lopez-Viado.
Thank you. I know my issues like the drive-throughs near freeways and major traffic areas, especially during peak time, it's harder to navigate. I don't mind drive-throughs at like remote areas of the city where there's not a lot of traffic concerns. But majority of this is because I do know like Chick-fil-A, that area where that near the freeway, it's packed, and I know like In and Out and stuff like that. And so with the majority of the drive-throughs, they are primarily, I mean, this is for everything, or just is it primarily for like the freeways and just like the major traffic areas, or I just wanted to get clarification.
I'm sorry. The moratorium that was initially approved by the City Council is for the entire city. So this extension would be based off of that initial adoption.
Okay.
If I may, through the chair, try to answer that question from a slightly different perspective. We welcome development proposals in West Covina, and we work with all kinds of businesses that want to invest money here. We treat them well. As regarding the restaurants, there are a few now that are in conversation with us. One of them is a place where you'd go to get a steak, and a sit-down restaurant, and we're going to hopefully be able to make some good gain on that. They're quite interested. They've told us from the time we approve a project for them, they'll have it up and running within 10 months. They have my undivided attention. So we're working closely with them. But eating out has changed in California. Right now, about half the meals are eaten out. And so the way it used to be isn't the way it is now. And a lot of that is fast service restaurants. The people that are in this sector will tell you that the drive-through is integral to the success of their business, that 60, 70% or more of their business is at the drive-through. We had a real-life example come up today. There's a former restaurant right next to Baskin-Robbins on Glendora. There was an attempt by a business to come in there with a spotless burger. It wasn't meant to be. Their checks bounced when they were applying for building permits. They just weren't viable. The proposal that came in was from somebody that wanted to demolish and invest in a brand new thing, but they wanted a drive-through with it. The drive-through on that old one was on the wrong side of the window, just wasn't right. But these are people that would invest literally millions of dollars in the city. And when they heard word that the moratorium was in place, they suddenly aren't interested in hitting their head against a wall. And so I think the right answer to that question is that every single one of these is site-specific. The devil's in the details. And as we require conditional use permits for these proposed businesses, it'll come down to a condition of approval that's dependent on a traffic engineer study and a queuing analysis for that site, for that business. And that's something that the Planning Commission would consider when that one comes before them. The queuing analysis is key, and it could be achieved through a conditional use permit process.
So my question to that, I know my issue is just along with many residents, their issue is when the traffic of the drive-through starts encroaching the streets.
Sure.
That is the main issue where everybody has a problem. The conditional use permit, I understand. But what happens if engineer and all that, they say it passes and it goes and there's a drive-through and that issue occurs? What
if we get it wrong?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you can have conditions of approval, and it's a conditionally permitted use. So you could call it up for review, either on a regular basis or on as needed on a problem basis. Once it goes in, it gets a little harder, though, because they've got a viable business. And so you might end up with a regulatory fight on your hands if we missed. We do have a really good traffic engineer now. I have a lot of confidence in her, and I think her process has integrity. When she reviews numbers, I'm able to count on them. And so I'd like to think that process would have integrity.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, question.
Councilman Wu?
When we approve and when we made a mistake, I think this is irrevocable. Okay, it's done. We cannot tell them, say, I'm sorry, we made a mistake. We have to, and take your drive-through away. It's impossible. When we approve, it will be there forever. Any of these drive-through, we approve 28 of them, it will with us forever. Okay, they will sell to somebody else, and they will keep this drive-through. And for the city manager talking about that property, that is our downtown plan. My understanding downtown plan is pedestrian friendly. People can walk around. And we don't even allow the drive-through. The Chick-fil-A drive-through in the downtown, that is a mistake. Okay, there's supposed to be no drive-through. But
planning commissioner previously, they against the planning suggestion no drive-through, but they still give the drive-through. And that is created now. The Vincent have this issue. When you make a left turn, you cannot even make a left turn. The car oozes out on the street to Vincent. Okay, when you want to go to Lake Avenue, go to it's almost impossible because it's a 2-lane, make a left, and the 1 lane is always ooze out on the traffic. So the thing is this, how can you take this away? It will be there. If we want to see our downtown plan is pedestrian friendly, we can walk around and try to improve. The drive-through is going to kill the deal. People are not going to walk if you have a car in and out all the time. So what we want to do is, what we want to see, what we can have our city look like. Okay, yes, I'm a free market guy. Okay, I think you know it. I just want everything to go. But if you see the plan, we already have a 28. The drive-through fast food, are we going to go to 35? And we will be number 1 in the Southern California, will be nothing but drive-through. But this is not what West Covina is about. West Covina should have, like you say, the steakhouse. And we have way too many chicken house. So hopefully we can have some steak coming to Italian, French, okay, come to our city, okay, and let's not drive through. Let's sit-in. So if that guy doesn't want to come, we maybe can attract some other restaurant, hopefully Italian, okay, a nice, or maybe even another steakhouse, okay, come to our city. Currently, our city only have 1 steakhouse. That is Groucher. So hopefully we can have a leg coming to our city. So again, what we want to our city is subject to our general plan, subject to how we design. We want to see the future, okay? And we really need to be careful what we approve. If we let go, okay, and then this will be, because we just see, okay, they want to do it, let them do it. And then we are going to have tons of drive-through, and then we have very little. And I know some of the sit-in along the freeway, they maybe landlord want to kick them out because some drive-through will pay them more. So that is something, you kick out the 1 sit-in and we have another drive-through and you create traffic and people come off on the freeway. They just want to quick get the fuel and leave. They're going to stay in our city and enjoying the nice meal or maybe walk around shopping. They just want to in and out. So my suggestion is still we should moratorium for these 10 months, see how it goes. Okay, and hopefully we can digest some of the traffic, the drive-through already what we have, and we should, like other city, Burbank, Glendale, why they moratorium? Because the traffic issue. I think they got a major issue from the resident, so they're doing that. And we are the same population of Burbank, 110, 120,000 population. And Pasadena, okay, 135,000 population, they have a less drive-through than us. I think they don't even allow drive-through based on I checked with Joanne. So in that way, and look at Pasadena has a lot of a nice restaurant. Why can't we get some to come over here? Hopefully we can attract them, not attract the drive-through, come over here. Fast food is fast. How about nice sit-in for our family diner? Okay, thank you.
Okay, okay, so now we want to open it up to people that are in favor.
I have no speaker cards, Mayor.
No speaker.
Go ahead. In favor or against?
In favor. First, in favor.
Are you?
I'm sort of neutral.
Do we have anybody in favor?
Of the moratorium?
Yes. Mr. Robinson, if you can please, we'll do neutral in a minute.
Well, I sort of like the moratorium. But, you know.
You're in favor? Okay.
I am in favor of the moratorium because when I grew up here in this city, we had Restaurant Row. Mm-hmm. We had Stark's. We had Bob's. We had places where people sat and went with their families. That's West Covina. That's the city that I grew up in, where people went to the restaurant with families. There were mom and pops, you know, there was the steakhouse, and then there was, fish on Fridays, but there was places where people sat, where you had families. There was no homeless on the street because it was families. There were no people living in garages just because they've upgraded their life from where they came. So if you keep the moratorium, and like you said, you're going to have to attract people who come here, who have an income, who want to spend time with their families. You got to look at the big picture, not what you want. We don't want to look like Los Angeles. We don't want to act like Washington, D.C., except for the nice sit-down restaurants. So if you keep the moratorium, I'm for it, because that's the best thing for the city overall. It doesn't mean anyone is excluded, but the city is a family city where people come. They play golf. They go to baseball parks. They go after the games. They go and sit down in restaurants. They go to pizza parlors. They go to all these little businesses that make the city great. So I like In and Out. I'll raise my hand, okay? I like going to fast food restaurants. I got no problem with it. The ones that are here, fine. But if you can establish a friendly city for families, is that 2 incomes, 1 income, professionals, what they look like, you're looking for what I keep saying, standards and values and principles of this city. Not trying to divide by saying being inclusive, but being the best thing for the city is small businesses. And that's what made West Covina great. And that will keep it a good community city. And then people are going to feel safer. And we can hire policemen. And people aren't going to come here just to wander through and go, yo quiero, or I want, or give me this, or I want to be housed because I'm on mental illness. They want families, family businesses. So moratorium overall is a good thing because it's saying we want families. Families have establishments. Families are what makes this city great. I want to thank you for my time.
Thank you. Are we done with favors? We're not neutral. Come on up. No, he's neutral.
Well, I'm sort of in favor. I'm sort of neutral. I mean, I endorse. I endorse
okay, Mr. Robinson.
Most of what he just said, and the cities that have a moratorium, I want our city to imitate them. The part that makes me nervous is the CEQA exemption. CEQA exemptions make me nervous, and if there's a traffic survey that shows the queue is going to disrupt the city and the traffic patterns, I think that ought to be considered. I mean, I don't like the exemption from CEQA, and I'm nervous about traffic problems that would be caused by a queue. And so there's that point. I don't get the urgency. This doesn't seem like an issue with a huge lot of political legs. I don't know why it's an urgency. Maybe it's just urgency because of technical legal reasons. But I was standing right here a couple years ago, and I was worrying about the traffic patterns about the Amazon proposal, and the council, and I was, shaking my fist about CEQA, and the council didn't seem to be interested in the 365 days a year of traffic, and I think the fast food and the queuing problem is significant, and we shouldn't allow an exemption from CEQA. And just like the previous speaker said, just make this a family-friendly, and the pedestrians, allow pedestrians and turn it into a family-oriented city to move off in that direction. My last remark is the powers that be have pretty much scheduled that the end of the emergency is going to happen in May. So we're going to quit killing 1,000 people a day nationwide in hospitals on the remdesivir COVID scam.
Let's keep with the topic here.
So maybe we.
Mr. Robinson.
Favor.
Let's.
Am I off the topic?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Well.
Thank you.
Anyway, I stayed on the topic for a while.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Listen. Who's in favor?
Mario?
To the gentleman that spoke first in favor, pretty much agree with everything he said, and just want to add for consideration that in this day and age, most of the drive-through establishments also are capable of being gotten through DoorDash or other services or even a curbside. So it's not like we're going to be forcing people to go into the establishment. I very much agree that, and even throughout the moratorium, to do the traffic studies perhaps of existing drive-throughs, because I do see that that could be an issue.
Thank you. Any more in favor?
Yeah. Keisha Blackshear?
Thank you. So I am also in favor of the moratorium. My initial thought is that, maybe there could be a little bit more research done as to why the other cities are not allowing it. My initial thought about that is that perhaps there's an inverse relationship to the health of the residents, the number of drive-thrus in the community, and so maybe we might want to consider that, as well as just working toward establishing a connection in the community that we have, or trying to reinforce it. I've been a resident of the city for almost 13 years, and I've seen a dramatic change in which it's quite concerning. And so perhaps if we could start with reestablishing that connection could benefit.
Thank you. Any more?
I have one speaker card. They're marking that they are in favor, they are opposed, and they are neutral.
That's right. It's called free enterprise. And businesses need to understand that if you don't have the money to open up a business, then you're not in the business. Because your investment should be 100%. That's what you're going to put your 1,000% into to make that business thrive. Now, if you're a good mediation, I'm sure you could talk to city manager and some of the cronies in his branch about maybe flagging down a lot of the permits and the red tape so that maybe there can be some leeway to make the investment worth its while. Otherwise, who wants to invest in a city that has an attitude like, I only want it this way and I don't want it to change? Well, things, as you heard, change. And the only way life is going to change is if you don't like McDonald's, don't buy $21 million of burgers for your kids. Stay out of Burger Town. That way you don't look like a SpongeBob. Second of all, based on the urgency of this and the pendency of what the zoning regulations, look at your planning commission. That big fat dude up there talking all his smack. It's his fault the planning ideas don't come through. He acts like he knows what he's talking about. Don't act it. Look up the zoning laws, study, do your part to figure out what would be the best decision made for West Covina. Otherwise, you're behaving like an idiot. That's where SpongeBob comes into all this. Idiot, idiot, idiots. And the reason behind that is because, like I said, you got an attorney. He doesn't do anything. He just sits there and says, I'll get back to you on it. Maybe you should hire a consultant firm that deals with management of businesses. This way, you'll know for a fact whether or not you're establishing income for West Covina. And that way we could build up the so-called budget, and we'll have a surplus of money to waste on the way you guys like wasting money. Because you heard, people don't want to hear about the police can't do anything about what their needs are. People want you to fix the problems within their community, such as this issue here, the so-called moratorium on a drive-through. I love drive-throughs. I think we all should have drive-throughs in our homes. So that way when you're running late to work, mommy puts the bag out, BYB, get your ass to school. BYB, get your ass to work. BYB, get your ass to wherever you're going. Because if not, we don't establish the Pasadena sit-down restaurants here. We just don't. We could have had it, except Mr. Wu and his cronyism of friends just messed it all up for everyone. Because some two individuals that don't live in the city of West Covina come in here and shake up and stir up the meetings to delegate on the consideration of what the urgency of ordinance is on this. And so whether, some of you that are overweight and look like Happy Meals, get on a diet. And even better, restaurants are just as good at your home because you get to cook for your family. Make it personal. Sit down with the children. Sit down with the animals. Sit down with your loved ones. Sit down with the people you love company with. Otherwise, yeah, like Wu, you could get in your big Hummer and drive down the street, flash your money because you're promoting your bullshit. But hey, come on.
Thank you. That's it?
I have no further speakers.
Okay, we're going to close this hearing. And do we want to make a motion?
Yeah, okay, based on the consultant's suggestion, and we need to have a more sit-in, mom and pop business to come back. So I want to move the motion to approve moratorium to, continue for 10 months. And hopefully in this time, we can research more about our city and our current traffic situation. This is my motion.
Second.
Just making a comment. Most drive-throughs, statistically, they're fast food, big food chains, and most likely not as healthy. So I do prefer like the sit-downs. They do bring community together. They just do a lot. It's really good. But yeah, it just now that I'm thinking about it, it's like fast food, unhealthy, and if we're thinking of the health of our residents, it would be nice. So yes, I agree. But he's second.
Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Mayor. And again, just to build on the downtown plan, I think that we need to revisit how we can make that more walkable, more bikeable, and really just more family friendly. So we don't have to be so unhealthy. Always driving through, never getting out of our cars, never sitting down, never having those meals. And I think when you allow people to feel like they can ride their bikes or walk, then you do create that atmosphere that we'd like. So, I think as we go forward, if we can then continue to build, I know places like Glendale and Burbank and I know Pasadena was mentioned, they are doing a lot to make their cities more walkable. So I'd like to see that as we move forward.
Councilwoman Lopez?
Can we just make sure that when the restaurants are being built that they designated a parking spot for pickups and stuff like that? I just would like to make sure we have that so we don't have to find parking just to pick up something. Thank you.
Yes.
I have a motion by Councilman Wu and a second by Councilman Contos to approve urgency ordinance number 2514, an extension of urgency ordinance number 2512, an interim urgency ordinance of the City Council of West Covina, California, enacted pursuant to California Government Code Section 65858, establishing a 45-day temporary moratorium on the review and approval of drive-through restaurants, food establishments within city limits during the pendency of the city's review and adoption of a permanent zoning regulations and objective standards for such uses and declaring urgency thereof for a period of 10 months and 15 days, and finding the ordinance is exempt from environmental review under the California Environmental Quality Act pursuant to CEQA guidelines, Section 15061B3. Councilman Contos?
Aye.
Councilman Wu?
Aye.
Councilwoman Lopez Viado?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Tabatabai?
Aye.
Mayor Diaz?
Aye.
Item passes 5-0, Mayor.
Okay, good. Okay, let's move on. Let's see, do we have any reports? Do we have any requests? Any comments from our council? Go ahead.
Madam Mayor, I'd like to ask if the city manager can follow up on the request by resident Steve Bennett as expressed earlier with regard to verifying that the money from the proceeds from the sale of the property on Cameron Park was designated and placed in a fund for preserving green spaces. I don't know if that's a Mother May. I've just a request to please follow up on that so that way we can have an answer since he's asked several months ago.
Can you answer that?
I can answer now, or we could report back in writing about that, or both.
Oh, writing would be good for the record, please.
When those properties were sold, they were the proceeds of those sales were placed in a fund as the city ordinances would require, and are available for those purposes. But I can have a memo for you as well.
That would be great.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Councilman Wu?
Okay, since I was here since 2016, okay, I just want to answer. Okay, and we sold the Sunset Field, okay, next to the hospital for about $3 million. Okay, and the money only can purchase the parkland.
Good.
Okay, so, and I think we purchased two property. Each one is $900,000. Another one is, I think, $800,000. The one on the Cameron Park, that one is the corner, and I think we create a lot of problem for their house, so they demolished. Okay, and currently they need to clean up, and hopefully can build something in the future, possible green or parking on this and that. So that is only the sale of the Sunset Field, okay, that money only can go into purchase of the parkland. And that is how it happened in the Cameron Park. So just want to ensure since I was here since 2016. And I want to have a comment really quick. Okay, really quick. Just want to thank, okay, I want to thank the staff and to provide a magnificent account. Okay, and we show up, okay, and 9 o'clock, unbelievable. Okay, the staffs are happy and friendly, and I saw children so happy, and I see the long line for face painting. Okay, all the kids with a beautiful face painting, and the account, and I see so many happy children with the basket full of the egg with candy. I hope that they don't eat too much, but it's such a enjoyable and happy, and you see thousands of people over there crowded. It's more than last year. So again, I want to thank Kiwani Club, and I want to thank all the staff for their effort to put this magnificent two park, Cortez Park and Del Norte Park. And I think we create a sense of community and people are happy. And that's what the city is about. Let's continue create all these public, okay, and community program, so we can have our residents come out the house. Sense of family. Let's come out with family. And I see so many children. I'm so happy. I feel like our population going to grow, okay, because we have more kids now. So I haven't seen so many kids in my life. So hopefully, beside the Mesa Elementary, but I think it's a good feeling. But thank you so much, staff, for your effort, and I think it's a great event. Thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem?
Thank you. I just have a couple quick comments. Again, the community meeting on Saturday, April 15th, Tax Day, also Jackie Robinson Day at Del Norte Park from 10 to 12. And then I also wanted to acknowledge March 31st was Transgender Visibility Day. And so the San Gabriel Valley LGBTQ Center on April 22nd is having their Barbequeer event. Again, I think when we're talking about meeting each other, eating with each other, learning about each other. It's always about meeting and eating and just getting to know families. So that's April 22nd. And last, about 50 years ago, Title IX was passed, and this past Sunday was the most widely watched women's basketball game in history. Almost 10 million people. Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese, phenomenal. And it's just a reminder, we have some great youth sports. I was a women's basketball coach for a long time. My son plays soccer at Orangewood, co-ed. He's in water polo at Edgewood, co-ed. I know we have a great youth softball program, and I think the city has done a great job in providing those youth sports for both our young men and young women. And so I just really want to promote that. It was a phenomenal game, two phenomenal players, and just, to see what sports has become for men and women, it was just awesome. So hopefully everyone got to watch that game on Sunday, because it was, wow, what a game. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Madam Mayor?
Councilman Cantos.
Just for the benefit of the public, and also to follow up, 2 meetings ago, I think I asked the city manager to check on working with Caltrans to have the weeds along the freeway or within the West Covina borders along there cleaned up, both with what is responsible, what Caltrans is responsible for, as well as if there's anything that we need to do as a city with any land that we have to make sure that those weeds are gone, to really focus on beautification. And so just as a follow-up, just for the public's knowledge, I had communicated with the city manager about that, and had also provided just a day or two ago information about possible reimbursement for such cleanup efforts. And so just as a supplement to the prior request, and as a thank you in advance, if the city manager could let us know as soon as possible about beautification efforts and what we can do to get that whole area along the 10 freeway on both sides cleaned up, that would be most greatly appreciated. And then the second thing is with regard to the San Gabriel Valley Council of Governments. They are now moving to an in-person format again, but I've actually made arrangements for anyone who wants to attend those meetings with regard to the Homelessness Committee and the Energy, Environment, and Natural Resources Committee. They're meeting, we're having a remote setup here tomorrow where those meetings are happening. The homeless meeting is committee meeting is at 8:30, and then the next meeting is at 10. So if anyone wants to come to the community room, notice and the agenda and business, it's already posted online, and so folks are invited to attend that as well. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Hold on. I want to address also an issue with Caltrans, since Councilman Cantos mentioned Caltrans. If they can please update their sign on Vincent Avenue where it says next 5 exits, Covina. It should say West Covina. I'm getting tempted to put a white tape up there. I'm going to do it myself. That's been like that for years. So if we could please fix that. Thank you. Councilman Wu?
Thank you, Mayor. Okay, I want to follow through my two colleagues. Okay, I think basically, the curve, and the sidewalk of next to the freeway. If you go to Citrus, and next to the Nissan building, you see the sidewalk, the weed like a jungle. Okay, and I talked to the staff. They say this belong to Caltrans. Okay, but it's not presentable. So I want to follow, Councilman Cantor, I think either we do it, we build them, or we have Caltrans to do their job. And otherwise, our city look horrible, on close to the intersection or on ramp or off ramp. You can see it's on the oldest, walkway is all weed. But I remember we hired the Alliance, right? We hired the new contractor. They will do the sidewalk, the median. Is that their job? So can we look into it? Whose job is Caltrans' job or a city staff job or our contractor's job? So, but at least somebody need to get rid of all those jungle weed, on the sidewalk. It's really look horrible, and it look like we did a lot of stuff, but still the problem still exists. I know we have a lot of rain, and they grow out like huge, like my house too, because the rain is like so much, but at least we out of drought, hopefully. Thank you.
Yeah, just to piggyback on that, all that rain created all those weeds, and we really need to do something about that.
Okay, well, lastly, I want to thank our staff, our assistant city manager who worked so hard on our Easter event. It was beautiful, a lot of children. My understanding is that we ran out of wristbands, and so I'm really happy to hear that. That is wonderful. So I just want to thank everyone, and I want to thank everyone that attended. I hope you enjoyed it, and if no one has any more questions, comments, then this meeting is adjourned.